so I can move on to something else. God, okay, Victor's... Wait, where did we end up? Was it Victor's investigation? Who the hell was Victor? Alright, we're gonna check this out. Yeah, who the hell was Victor? Oh, God. Alright, so, the next what did happen? Okay, so the Tyria ended up being undercover in the castle because she has to get something for some type of information for some guy, I don't know. So, and then the prince actually sucked on her finger for some reason, and I guess he's falling for her. So that's where we're at. Alright, so the next morning, Tyria was arranged for preparing breakfast, and she prepared under Rosette's... Is it Rosette or Rosé? Rosette's guidance. Today's menu were garlic toast and corn soup with potato salad. What's more, there were also pastrami, omurice, and salmon. I don't know what omurice is. What a palace. The varieties of dishes are indeed very rich. Hi, Gabby. Oh, this is going to be fun today. Just wait until some of this shit happens. You thought the first half was hilarious. She began to fold napkins after finishing putting the ingredients of these dishes in place. At that moment, Victor appeared with a worried face. Tyria could not help being frightened. All the people working as servants are coming to my room right now. Okay. Victor said while whipping his glasses with a handkerchief as before. Oh, he wiped them, not whipping them. Victor actually called together all the servants. What was going on next? Tyria could not help sensing a very unpleasant presentiment. Uh-oh. Although the servants around Tyria also began to make noises, they still assembled in the room according to Victor's words. The room was not so crowded, however. The room was a little narrow, with more than 10 servants standing around. Victor looked around in a weird atmosphere. He carefully looked at each person's face and stared at them. It was a kind of feeling that hard to get close to. Oh my God, I can't get this shit out of my mouth. Tyria was actually hiding her thoughts, although she thought so. What? Among you, it seems that someone entered my room and stole the intelligence. Stole the intelligence? What does that mean? Take a look at this. Victor held up the record book so that everyone could see it. Tyria was astonished, because the record book was the article used by Tyria. It seems to be a blank sheet of paper. Rosette felt very puzzled. Victor said, yes, with the posture trying to say, I was waiting for you to say the sentence. But, if doing so, the charcoal pencil used for line drawing dashing on the record book. What? Numbers, time, and other information emerged. Everyone presented came out in a voice. Ah, shit. Tyria thought so. She did not notice that she had left marks on the page because she wrote hard. Tyria didn't expect Victor to notice such a tiny place. It's obvious that someone has stolen the intelligence. Therefore, I've decided to find the criminal who stole the intelligence. Is that so? I see. As the director of servants, Rosette made a summary to everyone. I think we can't work well if we've been suspected all the time. But how to find out the criminal? Very simple. Next, everyone has to write numbers and names. Is that for comparing the handwriting? Victor nodded. It said yes, and walked to in front of the leftmost person. Yeah, the intelligence. What if the criminal changes handwriting intentionally? If I think someone's writing isn't very smooth, I will let the person write again. After all, the habit of writing is not that you could change at once. Whenever a person finished writing, Victor began to review and compare. The person who was judged to have no problem suddenly became relaxed and looked relieved. The sound of writing on paper was intermittent. What should I do? Tyria was in the middle of the second row. If it went on like this, Tyria would be exposed. Victor could be seen dimly from behind the servants as Tyria looked anxiously at Victor. Uh-oh. The bell rang. Is it the Phantom Thief up here? Victor showed a very surprised expression after hearing the sudden ringing of the bell. The servants began to stir up. The room suddenly became noisy. If it goes on like this, there will be no point in continuing to find the criminal. Servants, you could all go back to rooms. Yes, I see. Rosette just stared at Victor's face after bowing. Is there anything else? Though it may not be my business, could the Phantom Thief be the criminal actually? I see. About that, I didn't think of it. Of course not. Victor showed a surprised expression after hearing Rosette's thoughts. He listened to and took the idea. Well, this time it's on hold. You can quit now. Oh my gosh. After hearing Victor's words, Rosette began to walk out of the room. The servants followed Rosette, one by one, walked out of Victor's room. Whew, saved. Tyria just relaxed. It seemed Tyria was saved by the Phantom Thief again. Tyria thanked the Phantom Thief in heart and was relieved. After that, Tyria went back to the dormitory and cleaned the room to spend the rest of the time. Oh boy. Where is everybody today? Early next morning, Tyria was arranged to wipe the corridor and she concentrated on the work. Oh. Do we really need to go through all these animations? Just then, suddenly, she ran into someone and almost couldn't help making strange noises. Whoa, I'm sorry. It's my fault that I didn't see the front. Tyria raised head, a feeling of possibly knowing the other hit her. Tyria's memory should be good. Therefore, the person who has seen once should be remembered. Brown hair like a bear and dark brown eyes. You should be the person who kidnapped me. Ah, you can't say that out loudly. The man covered Tyria's mouth with one hand in a hurry. What? I just said the truth. The man raised his head with a sigh and finally loosened the hand over Tyria's mouth. I haven't introduced myself yet. I am Henry Brad Rapal. What is with these names? Henry, I have something to ask you. Henry said, what is it, and grinned. If you weren't trusted by Sheriff, even if you didn't kidnap me, I would go with you just as long as you told me what was going on. Oh, well, it's good to do that, but if just so, would it be interesting? Henry said so carelessly. Tyria could not help feeling hateful about Henry's worry-free smile. What? Would it be interesting? Ah, do you know how scared I was then? When Tyria grabbed Henry's collar and shook it, Henry made a sound of goo, which sounded like a squashed frog. I thought goo was supposed to be baby, but... Okay, I was sorry to get carried away. Henry, who raised his hands in surrender, didn't seem to be introspective. Having just let go of Henry's collar, Henry's words, it's better to be shook more vigorously, made Tyria regret that she had let him go. Are you really introspecting? Tyria glared at Henry, whose arms were in front of his chest, and quickly put two hands together. Tyria, I'm introspecting. Just forgive me. What are they talking about, introspecting? I don't know what that word's supposed to mean. Tyria? Tyria's brow knit together because of this friendly addressing way. Oh, couldn't I call you Tyria? A dog's ears seemed to appear on the head of Henry as he said so. Tyria narrowed her eyes and looked carefully. No, it was illusion. It's just that Henry's obedient look made him look like a big dog. I say, couldn't I call you Tyria? Tyria was frightened and couldn't help stepping back a few steps after Henry's attitude suddenly became tender and soft. Even if it doesn't matter. Really? So Tyria, thank you for your care and future. Care means? Because I'm also going to work in the palace. I don't even know what's going on in this. My brain is kind of shut down here. Ah, I see. Thank you for your care and future, too. Although the first impression was not so good, it's fun to have a new work partner. Being able to have a partner like Henry really made Tyria happy because Tyria had no one to talk to. Okay, so this guy kidnapped her, freaked her out, and now that he's working at the palace, she's okay with it because she knows him. Tyria stretched out a hand in terror. Oh, now she's scared, and showed his friendly attitude to Henry. What? Shaking hands, although that was the first plan. Tyria didn't know what Henry was thinking. Henry grabbed Tyria's hand and moved her fingertips to his mouth. What? What? Henry made such a sound like Jew. Tyria was distracted and watched Henry let go of her hand. This is a greeting of thanking you for your care and future. Henry, who suddenly smiled innocently, was almost as dazzling as the sun. I do not want this kind of greeting. I don't either. Henry caught Tyria's hand again that just loosened as soon as she wanted to show her denial attitude. Let me give you some other greetings. Henry's brown eyes sparkled like wild animals that sniped at the prey. No need. Tyria's hand that was caught by Henry was let go when she put forth her strength. Henry blinked his big eyes and began to laugh while held his stomach. Ha ha ha, I won't do anything. Tyria, you are so funny. What's so interesting? Tyria was completely confused. Henry was still laughing as if he got the punchline. I hope he got it, because I didn't get it. I say, when are you going to stop laughing? Tyria stabbed Henry with her forefinger. Forefinger? Is that actually a body part? And Henry finally stopped laughing. Sorry. Well, I'm about to leave. Bye. Oh my god, could they move any faster? Henry left while waving one hand. Tyria took a deep sigh watching his back, being defiant for a moment and playing tricks on people as they are fools for a moment. Tyria felt she was played by Henry, whose attitude varied from time to time. Next time, be careful not to be played by Henry again. Oh, wait, what is that? I can't even tell what that is. While Tyria resumed her work of wiping the corridor, her sight shifted back to the corridor. There were two men in charge of guarding standing there. Tyria froze there. It was Victor's room. Victor strengthened the room's guards because I stole the intelligence. If so, it would be possible to sneak into Victor's room as before, or it would be impossible. If the Phantom Thief appeared, guards maybe not enough. The guards maybe not be enough. However, it was too unreliable to expect something that didn't know when it would appear or disappear. This writing is getting worse, you guys. It's getting worse. What's more, in that case, no matter how much time Tyria had, it would not be enough. There were no options, just giving up copying files for now. Even she was always optimistic, Tyria. Tyria felt worried and lost at this time. When Tyria didn't know how long the depression would last, suddenly someone said, "Have you finished cleaning yet?" Not yet. Tyria raised her head and found Rosette was looking at her face. Tyria hastily started cleaning. Her face was reflected on the marble floor. Yes, when it's over, it's time for you to learn your new job. New job? Tyria turned around and Rosette let her follow her. Tyria completed the remaining job and caught up with Rosette. I don't remember what this new job was. Oi! Henry was not a nuisance. I like the name of that chapter. Before long, Rosette went into her room. Rosette had already waited at the bed of king size when Tyria also entered the room. Tyria continued to walk to Rosette. This time, you'll have to replace with new pillowcases and bed sheets. Rosette worked proficiently and removed the pillowcases and bedsheet. Then Rosette covered new pillowcases and laid new bedsheets as originally placed. There was no wrinkle. Rosette's clean and agile movements made Tyria couldn't help swallowing saliva and staring at the scene. You were so good, Rosette-senpai. It's just a piece of cake, okay? Then go to the next room. It's your turn to try. Tyria thought she had been watching alongside and should have made it. However, there was always something wrong when it came to practice. There were wrinkles. Oops, it was so strange. Okay, next bed. Senpai carefully paved all wrinkled places. She paved them. Tyria went to the other bed and challenged again according to what Senpai said. However, Tyria failed again. Why? Tyria mumbled to herself and pressed some strength to her panic head. You are not flattening the sheet yet. After you fold the bed sheet, you need to hold the other side, just like this. Then the sheet made a sound of Walla Walla. Okay, how do sheets make a Walla Walla sound? Oh, that was amazing. Yes, it was very much amazing. According to predecessors' practice, the bed sheets could be smoothed out easily. Well, have you mastered the knack? And the rest of rooms you need to do in this way, okay? After the predecessor said that, he went back and continued to finish his own work. The room just left Tenaria. Wait, hold on. What? Isn't her name Tyria, not Tenaria? The room just left Tenaria alone, and she started to complete all tasks after a sigh. When removing the pillowcases and bedsheets, her eyes fell on the white texture. Obviously, no matter bedsheets or pillow are not dirty yet. Might as well say the bedsheets were as white as snow. Maybe they were changed every day. Living the palace, which was full of purity, for Tyria was a very happy thing. Originally speaking, this was not the ordinary people who can close as well as a place to take office. This is getting worse. I'm not even sure what I just said there. Tyria thought she must thank Shirley. Who the fuck is Shirley? Whoever translated this scene must have been high or something. Well, this room is work done too. The sheet was placed in the box of the cart, and Tyria went to the next room. After repeating the process more than 10 times, Tyria finally came to someone's room. It was Lantis's room. Uh-oh. Tyria entered the room and went inside the bedroom straightly, only to see a cat occupied the whole bed leisurely. The cat who said... Wait, the... Why is the formatting of this line all this fucked up? The cat who stayed motionlessly, whether slept or awoke, it was not clear. Could you please move a little bit, or Strumsay Lord? Tyria tried to speak quietly, and the cat's ears suddenly made a movement. Ah, you are awake. Tyria was waiting for the cat coming down from the bed. But the cat still stayed on the bed after Tyria waiting and waiting. Or Strumsay Lord. Tyria lowered her shoulders because of dilemma. As if Tyria listened before that, the cat seemed to be very cold for women. If so, then it must be used the final resort. Tyria approached the cat quietly and suddenly swooped up. Caught you, just when Tyria thought she had got the cat, but her arms were not actually had a cat. Oops. Turning her head to look back, the cat has already jumped to the ground. Light came down from the bed just now. The cat went to the corridor naturally. The cat got out of the bed, which should make people feel happy, but Teria did not feel a little pleasure. Why? Maybe it was because the cat's bad attitude. Anyway, the most important thing was focused on making the bed first to complete own job. It should be the strong bed, which Lantis slept usually, exuding his smell. Exuding his smell. You must use the very expensive sesame oil. There was no unpleasant smell. The thick aroma made nose itching, and Teria also felt a little faint, so she beat her face hurriedly. Felt so dangerous. Coming to her senses, Teria replaced pillowcases and bedsheets quickly. That's it, ha! What are you doing? Uh-oh. Heart suddenly beat fiercely. Turning her head, Lantis was holding the cat standing there. I am here to change bedsheets and pillowcases. Compared to Teria's fluty answer voice, Lantis's face looked not very good. What's the matter? After that, Ander Dawes couldn't use his power at all. Lantis tightly frowned his eyebrows. Angular and handsome face was full of haze. Teria saw this expression for the first time. Teria wanted to say something to encourage him, so she opened her mouth and said, People always have. The state is not very good. A few days later, the force must come back. Does not speak these words irresponsibly. Although these words were to let him brace himself, last words he wanted to hear for Lantis. Perhaps this was the... What? I think these are just random... I think this is just random shit, words just thrown out together, because I don't even know what's being said anymore. Teria bit her lips with uneasiness. Sorry, can you leave me alone for a while? Closing his eyes, Lantis said gently. Teria came out of the room after a silent bow. A silent bow. That, Lantis, it is the first time. Teria pulled the trolley forward as she looked down the ground. The fact that Teria was denounced made her upset. If Lantis can brace himself up, which would be great. When Teria went along the channel straightly, the predecessor came from the opposite. What's wrong? How is it going on after that? No, everything is good. Teria saluted like the army. Predecessor was amused. A child like you can come here, which is out of my expectation. A child like me not be allowed? Teria looked at Predecessor restlessly. His face became more moderate. Why are we calling her Rosette a him now? No, I never say it is not okay. The gap between work, appropriate, relaxed, is okay. Is that true? Oh my god. The laughing that burst out mitigate surrounding atmosphere. However, Teria and Predecessor both put on a serious expression. The chat is over here, then go back to work. Oh, is it over? What is over? Predecessor switched the state quickly, which let Teria cannot keep up with her speed. When Teria still sighed, the predecessor had already left. After that, when Teria finished her job, she rested in the single room of the dormitory as usual. Oh my god. Okay, so that whole chapter was she was making beds, and she made Prince Lantis's bed, and he came in, and he was pissed off because I think he hasn't had his Ander Dawes ability show itself again. I don't know. I think that's what happened. The next day, Teria got a vacation, and she paid a visit to Sharon. Teria wanted to tell him that she planned to give up the agreed intelligence gathering job. The location of the Sharon's house has been remembered by her before she returned that journey. Teria walked on her way. Were close to the dormitory, thinking about how to tell Heats when she saw him. Yes, very important. We spent all of 5 minutes having her make freaking beds. Since Tyria came out from the dormitory in the morning, the sun had been shining intensively. If I had taken a parasol, that would be fine. Tyria was thinking about these things while walking on the uneven road. About 1 hour later, Tyria finally saw the sheriff's house. It seemed that the house had a very strong structure and a luxurious facade. The hyacinth swings blowing in the wind at the top of the stables. Okay. Tyria went into the gate and knocked on the house's door. After Tyria entered the house, the reception was not Sheriff, but the other man. The other man? The man who wore a pair of clean white gloves and acted as a steward. The tall nose was mounted on the clean and transparent skin. The silver gray hair shone a slight light. The eyes with the same color were just like attracting people into them. Fine hair with unique color attracted people's attention to stare at him. Ha! This is not the time to stare at him. Tyria remembered the original purpose, opened her mouth with panic. Hello, is Sheriff at home now? Sheriff Lord went out now. He should be back soon. Could you please wait for a moment? Because of the man's cordial offer, Tyria nodded and agreed. Tyria went into the living room. He let her sit on a very soft sofa to wait. Tyria had nothing to do, so she looked around the room. The creamy walls were decorated with paintings, although Tyria didn't know the exact specific situation. They were definitely valuable items. Be this way. It seemed that Sheriff was very rich. There was a photo on the shelf which kept the young appearance of Sheriff a few years ago. Standing by Sheriff's side, this was just the man who had just come out to meet me. I think, okay, is the son? But the man had no resemblance to Sheriff. I think we're getting introduced to all these new characters, who were the love interests probably that we were supposed to pick earlier, even though we hadn't met them yet. Could you like a cup of tea? I don't know, can I? Thank you. Tyria almost moved to tears by this gentle and considerate action. Putting the cup near the nose, the aroma of the tea spread out in a nasal cavity. This is so eloquently written. This was Tyria's favorite drink, Darjeeling. Hachoo! It's so delicious. Did she just sneeze? The man was so surprised to see the empty cup. Tyria develops this habit at home that she usually drinks Darjeeling without breathing. Ah! Tyria realized her gaffe when she found that he was staring her. In order to cover up her shy, Tyria scratched her head. The man opened the words. Do you want another cup of tea? Holding back the impulsive laughter, he asked whether Tyria need pour some black tea. Sorry to trouble you. Tyria nodded and replied embarrassedly. But just at this moment, Cooling? Is that supposed to be stomach grumbling? The stomach released a long sound. She only ate some fruit because of a hurry to go out. As if heard the voice of laughter. She was joking. Now she just wanted to find a hole to drill down. I don't know. Are you following along? Are you understanding what I'm saying? Because this is just, I don't know. If you don't mind, please eat these. Tyria almost could not help drooling when he put a plate which places a piece of chiffon cake. I would help myself. In order to hide mouth water, she pretended to show calmness and fork a piece of chiffon cake into the mouth. So delicious. Although Tyria could cook, but she has never made such a delicious thing. It is really very delicious, Tyria frankly answered, so that the man wore a soft smile on his lips. I can get your this kind evaluation. I have no idea what that means. I think my hard work is worthwhile. This is what you do? Tyria bent forward and had no intention to hiding her surprise. Yes, I naturally like to challenge different kinds of things. Oh, this is the case. So awesome. When Tyria was still feeling with emotion, she heard the scream of the house. Wait, that sounded like a horse, but it was the house. It seems that Sheriff come back. Please sit here for a while. After a polite bow, the man disappeared on the other side of the door. Later, Sheriff entered the room like change shifts. When I was trying to get up and greeted him, Sheriff stopped me. It's okay, even you sit there. Let's start to talk quickly. He slowly approached the couch, and Tyria sat down in the opposite position. Looking as Sheriff sat down, Tyria began to speak. Although we have made an agreement before, the task that you've given me, I couldn't complete. Did you see that? It was... Oh, never mind. This is why? Although there was one time gained successful information, the result is still useless. The result is still useless. Sheriff made a short sigh. When he looked at Tyria, lowered her eyes. Although she did not want to break the agreement, the result was this case. Sheriff said, in this case, as if he were not surprised at Tyria's words. Maybe he has expected that Tyria would be fail. It was difficult to judge his true thoughts only by his expression. In this case, I'll ask you for another job. Another job? Tyria did not hold back a sound that revealed her own feelings. Tyria thought that she had no chance to know the matters about her parents because she violated the agreement. Tyria, I'll give you one more chance. I want you to please the queen. What? What? Please tell me that's not what I think it is. Tyria was stunned. So am I. Even if she was working in the palace, the servant would have the opportunity to mediate the queen. And if you do something other than work, Victor, even the followers, which would treat you by cold shoulders. Do you know that the palace will hold a party recently? Tyria knew it was referred to Lantis's party. Tyria nodded her head. If the queen is there, she is able to relax herself, but the communication between people cannot avoid, so she must have accumulated some fatigue. I just talk to the queen when she feels tired. Faced with Tyria's questions, Sheriff nodded in agreement. Exactly. The original aim is to talk with the queen to let her open herself up. Well, what should I do after that? Stop it! Faced with Tyria, who tilted her head, Sheriff lowered his voice and said, After that, you just talk with the queen. I see. Talking with the queen has made people nervous, but this is the task which cannot refuse. Tyria affirmatively promised him. Oh shit, I get to save right in the middle of this shit. After the conversation, Sheriff clapped his hands twice. It was not long before the man had come. Carol, send this lady back. The male, who was called Carol, smiled at Tyria after a respectful bow. It seemed that he would send Tyria back to the dormitory. Let me send you back to... Okay. It even tells me which choice does what. Okay, I'm just gonna walk back. Let us walk back. Although Sheriff's proposal made Tyria feel very happy, she also decided to walk back. It was not far from the palace, and maybe I would find something interesting in the back way. I think so. Although Sheriff wore a very regrettable expression, he immediately began to pack things up to go to the other places. After saying hello to Sheriff and Carol, Tyria walked out of Sheriff's house and looked up at the sky. Cotton candy-like clouds were floating in the sky. Such a period of time was leisurely and comfortable. Tyria walked towards the palace again. She was not anxious and slowly walked forward. After walking through the woods and across the open field, Tyria started to hum songs. At this moment, here came the clip-clop of horses' hooves. Tyria looked back. Lantis, riding a horse, stopped in front of her. This mettled horse neighed and shook his head, and then became quite again. From yesterday, Tyria didn't see Lantis as the weather was not good. So Tyria looked down and felt a bit awkward. Finally, Lantis said, You want to go out? He said in a tone that nothing's happened. You too? Tyria looked up and asked. Lantis nodded his head. Later, a clear smile appeared on his face. I come out to have a walk. Tyria's sight was just facing Lantis's feet. She thought that his feet should be soft, but they looked extraordinarily forceful. What is... Okay. Lantis got off the horse and kept his sight horizontal with Tyria's sight, and made a proposal. Want to ride the horse? Ah? Tyria didn't know his meaning very much and felt a bit anxious. Then Lantis put his hands on Tyria's waist. Oh! Ow! What? After regaining consciousness, Tyria was already on the horse. She felt uneasy at her waist. Tyria has never rode a horse, so she didn't know how to keep balance. A moment later, Lantis sat behind Tyria. The horse's body started to give out light. Tyria couldn't help uttering a word. Ah! It also appeared when Tyria fondled the cat before. Under Daw's horse. Tyria fondled the cat. Light beams sent out from horse's eyes to the trees. Just like before, it turned into images and started to replay. Lantis, don't go far. Gold and silver decorations glittered. The tririgum on head was exquisite. What is a tririgum? Is that even a word? The noble woman speaking in the image seemed to be a little younger than the queen. She looked at Lantis at the opposite side, with smile. Her attitude was firm just like a mother. The images suddenly disappeared at this moment. Under Daw's force, it seems like it can be used again. Tyria turned head and said like that. Lantis replied yes, and then smiled. I was too emotional, sorry. No, it was me that said some nonsense. I should apologize, sorry. They looked into their eyes and laughed. After mutual apology, the gap between them was already disappeared. Oh boy. Tyria, we will go to the same place. I send you. Thanks, but staying with you made me too eye-catching. Tyria wanted to refuse him by saying like that, but Lantis urged the horse to move forward without saying a word. And the way that Lantis seemed to hug Tyria, they walked toward the palace. Their bodies were close together. It was so close that they could hear each other's heart beating. How the hell do you walk that close together? Come on. And the dense fragrance that Tyria once smelled on Lantis's bed. Tyria's heart jumped fast, and her eyesight moved around. It makes you mind very much. Lantis's voice came from the top of her head. Tyria's face was so hot that it seemed to be burning up. No, not very. Not minded very much. Tyria wanted to say like that, but her heartbeats couldn't be hidden anyhow. I really mind. The voice passing above made Tyria swallow her saliva. What is with the swallowing saliva thing? Tyria felt so nervous and dared not to look at his face at all. Even the late mature Tyria also knew that her mood was same with his mood, but she didn't know how to express her feeling to him. Staying with Lantis made her heart ache. She felt very sad. Tyria put her hand in the back of Lantis's hand that was holding a rein. Maybe Lantis could also feel that her hand was trembling. What? Her hand? Oh, jeez. So small hand. Lantis only said such a sentence, but he didn't loose Tyria's hand. Then Lantis pulled the hand that Tyria didn't stretch over to hold the rein, and used his left hand to wrap up them. The closely held hands seemed to pass her heat and moved to him together. Tyria felt very happy. This is the sexiest stuff I've ever read, I'm not gonna lie. They spoke nothing, and their hands were still close together even after reaching the palace. Sorry. Okay. Something happened 2 days later. The palace was decorated more luxuriously than usual. The paintings of famous painters were hung on the walls of lobby, and premium vases were with bright-colored flowers in it were placed on the dining tables. The servants busily moved back and forth. They were full of people taking cheerfully and humorously. The commemorative party for Lantis with strong Ander Daw's force started. Tyria followed the instructions of Senpai and sent food to the tables one by one. When passing the central lobby, Tyria just brushed against Henry. On the tray in his hands, glasses were placed like small hills. "Be careful not to fall down," Henry said in a low voice. "You too," with mouth close to her ear. The noble gentlemen and ladies were always attractive when moving back and forth among the gorgeous crowd. A noble woman laughed loudly with a white lace fan in hand. A noble prince talked incessantly with a goblet in one hand. Looked up after finishing serving the appetizer, and then met Senpai eye to eye. The senpai waved at Tyria. "You can have a rest for about 1 hour." "Thanks." Tyria obediently stopped and finally could take a breath, looked around. The guests scattered in all directions and were immersed in talking. Queen, standing in the central room, seemed to be greeting those important people with Victor. Just realized that the leading role was not there. Lantis, where is he? In such a chaotic crowd, it was really difficult to find Lantis. But Lantis was not an ordinary man, but a prince in the leading role of this party. A person with gorgeous costumes would be immediately found disappeared if he was not here. Tyria went out from the room after noticing that Lantis was not in the lobby. Walking in the hallway with countless doors, she knocked the door one by one. But all the rooms were locked without anybody in it. Wait, how does she know there's nobody in them if they're locked? There was no response. It could be seen that nobody stayed in the rooms. Well, what if they just didn't want to respond? After knocking over 10 times, Tyria slightly rotated the doorknob of a certain room, and then the door was open. Eh? Tyria walked in curiously, and then found Lantis lying in bed. Maybe. "Hey, are you okay?" Tyria ran over in a rush and shook his shoulders. Tyria felt a bit flurried and couldn't help trying if Lantis had pulse or not. Good. The pulse was still jumping. Is it already morning? Lantis rubbed his eyes with eyes still heavy from sleep. Nervous, Tyria suddenly felt relaxed and breathed out. Oh no, it is already noon. It is so late. Lantis sprang to his feet in a flurry. Just at the place where he got up, there were several empty bottles of red wine. It seemed that Lantis drank red wine and slept until now. Why you drink wine recklessly? Tyria collected the empty bottles and said, "Because today's party makes me very nervous. I relied on the alcohol to ease such tension, but seems I failed." Lantis mischievously stuck out his tongue and looked at her secretly with an innocent look. Tyria felt relieved after seeing Lantis like this, and then caught his wrist, wanting to pull him up. Tyria thought he would stand up by making use of the force, but he didn't want to stand up at all. On the contrary, oh boy, Tyria was pulled over. Tyria was going to fall down, but finally kept balance due to the hand held by Lantis. It was so silent at this time. The person breaking the silence was Tyria. "Can I ask a question?" "What?" "What are you doing?" "Hugging." Of course, everybody knew that without asking. What Tyria really wanted to ask should be, why you do that? After being questioned, Lantis slowly said, "The time is sufficient. Let's spend some time leisurely together." No need. When Tyria wanted to say like this, Lantis placed something in her hands. It was a bottle of red wine, but this one was not opened yet. Tyria didn't know what it meant and tried to figure it out. Then Lantis said, "You know how much it is." To Tyria, who was still living a civilian life 1 week ago, it was impossible for her to know the price of such premium red wine. Even Tyria became a servant here. She still couldn't enter the wine cellar easily, so it was a matter of course that she didn't know the price. The man in front of her undoubtedly knew that, and still asked such a question. It was really annoying. About 100,000 gozi? I don't know. 100,000 goes was equal to the monthly salary of Tyria. Tyria felt that it was the premium goods of such level. But this one is worth 10 times of the price you just said. Lantis said to her in a low voice with mouth close to her ear. It made her really surprised. With sweating hands, it seemed that the red wine would slide to the ground. Tyria tightly held the bottle of red wine. Suddenly, Lantis's hands hugged her from both sides. Ha! Ha! As Tyria saw... Oh god! I don't want to say this! You're making me do this! As Tyria's soft breasts were suddenly fondled by him, Tyria uttered a strange sound. The sound is not really fascinating. Lantis's voice was filled with a bit regret. He continuously rubbed the soft breasts from the top of clothes. Don't rub. Tyria held the bottle of red wine tightly. She couldn't do anything but accepting the feeling brought by Lantis's rubbing. Don't let the bottle fall down on the ground. Lantis's ear whispering made her itching. Tyria's eardrum trembled. Oh yeah, I love it when my eardrum trembles. And her breath also started to quake, but anger gradually occupied her mind finally. In such period, Lantis's nimble hands still constantly played with Tyria's breast. What is this shit? Such. You such a dirty goat. Tyria held the fine part of the bottle and pounded Atlantis' head behind her. After a sound bang, it generated a terrible sound. The bottle broke into pieces. The red wine flew like blood. It made Tyria can't help thinking if Lantis' head was also injured at the same time when the bottle fell down. I will apologize. Tyria squinted at wet Lantis. Lantis looked down and didn't utter a word. I will compensate for your red wine. Well, I go first. Oh, after saying that, Tyria got up immediately and left the room after giving a salute. A solute? I don't think that's how you spell salute. Oh, shit. Oh, I didn't have to save. What I came here for. I just wanted to find Lantis, but was humiliated by him. Even though Tyria beat him back, but her anger was not completely disappeared. So skillful. He must have caressed and made love with many women. Such skill could even make all women fall in his arms. Even Tyria nearly lost mind when being rubbed by him. But Tyria didn't want to be such a woman at all. To Lantis, Tyria might be one of women he played with, but to Tyria it was not what she wanted. Tyria never played with any man. Even Lantis' attitude was right. She would still be cautious. But Lantis fondled her so easily under the influence of alcohol. Don't think anymore. Tyria shook head fiercely, wanting to drive all the images in head. Oh, don't worry, there'll be more parts like that later. There'll be more. Oh god. Okay, Tyria strode forward along the corridor and then returned back to the lobby. The band was playing elegant music. When Tyria was immersed into the melody, that man walked into the venue. Who's that man? Is that Sheriff? A man with a bit of gray hairs. It was Sheriff. Why Sheriff appears in the palace? Tyria searched for the figure of Senpai and wanted to go over to ask the reason. Senpai Rosette, why Sheriff comes to the palace? Ah, you call dear Sheriff by name? You don't know why you shall call him dear Sheriff. Okay. Hearing this, Tyria scratched her head. In fact, it seemed Tyria had seen Sheriff several days ago. Maybe that was really Sheriff himself. But Mr. Sheriff is one of the Senate who is responsible for the highest. The Senate? I'd never heard of it. Tyria felt a little confused. The Senate, that's the King's Proposal Institution. It is only the highest responsible person of Senate, Mr. Sheriff, and Her Majesty the Queen who could give advice to the King in this country. That's right. What a great man Sheriff is. Tyria was surprised to open his mouth, and just then she and Sheriff looked at each other. He looked a little reluctant with a wry smile on his face. Senpai, I'll leave for a little while. Leaving the senpai, she walked towards Sheriff. Several bodyguards stopped Tyria halfway. They surrounded Sheriff to protect him. Excuse me, what's the time now? After Sheriff was stopped, he raised his hands. As a result, the bodyguards around stepped back to where they could monitor their conversation. Sheriff, you are certainly a senator and could freely enter and leave the palace. Why do you make promise with me about that? Whispering to Sheriff, he gave a big sigh and nodded. From whom did you hear of me? Well, because I really care about it. Please explain that to me. Is he playing dumb? I think he's playing dumb. He sat aside, and Tyria also sat aside like him. It is very important were a very important thing for me for the position in Senate, although I could enter the palace, but that only means a little bit of freedom. Well, why do you want me to come? The implication was that there are people who is more suitable than me. That's because you can understand me and help me do it well. Well, I still don't understand this shit. Is that all? Any other reason you wish for? No. But it did not mean that everything had been accepted. But I kept silent for the other party was in form, attitude, and also for what he said. Sheriff investigated Tyria first, and then made promise on that kind of thing. It was really hard to see his sincerity. Tyria, please don't be so reserved today. Come and have something to eat when you are resting. Indeed, I had some time to have a rest today. Like what Sheriff said, it didn't matter to have something to eat. After parting Sheriff, Tyria quickly returned to the senpai. Senpai, could you lend me a lunchbox with a lid? Of course, but what's for? I just want to bring some food back. Auntie Cresta's face came to my mind. I didn't go back home for a long time, so I wanted to bring some food from the banquet back for a taste. Tyria took over the lunchbox from the senpai and started allocating dishes from the end of several full plates on the table. Just then, there was a disturbance in the venue. Look to the disturbance. Lantis, with a number of important figures, were walking towards the queen. Lantis looked very calm, and he didn't pay any care to his humiliate to Tyria. His gentle action for meeting the queen attracted all the women's attention. A warm applause was full of the venue because of the appearance of the leading role. The atmosphere of the venue was high and going to reach the climax. Tyria also clapped her hands, but suddenly she felt a soft touch on her feet and looked down. It was black fur without impurity, and as black as darkness. It was Lantis's cat. Mr. Orastrebze. That was probably attracted by the smell of the cooking, and walked around Tyria's foot while enjoying the smell. Obviously it was cool to Tyria, but his attitude changed really fast. Tyria cheered up and picked the cat with her arms. However, at this time... Oh no! I'd never have guessed! From the body and eyes of the cat, rays of light were shown on the wall. With this dazzling light, the people around caused a disturbance. The rays of light turned into image playing on the wall. This is... That was a boy in pumpkin underwear and foul Bala code. It seemed like young Lantis. The scene Lantis playing with the cat was cut off soon after showing. The disturbance caused by the people around continued, and Tyria didn't know what to do. This is the power of Ander Dawes. Someone said so, which frightened Tyria. In fact, if you had seen that kind of power, you would know this was the power. However, Tyria is totally a common people. She was born in a common family and was raised by Auntie Cresta after her parents died. Only the royal person could use such kind of power. How could Tyria use it? So, why the power could be found in Tyria? Because Lantis is around? Oh no. The sights around stabbed at Tyria, and she held the cat huddled. The whispering made a sharp pain on the ear. She struggled to get out with the cat in her arms. That man is a person of royal lineage. Why, he looks like a servant. Wait, why are they calling her a man? Such kind of talk never ended. Just when Tyria was confused with what to do, Sheriff came up to her. Ladies and gentlemen, as what you've already seen, that is the power of Ander Dawes. Sheriff's words like a stone into the water, the crowd quickly quieted down. She could use the powder, which means she is a person of royal lineage, is that right? Because Sheriff started, the topic was gradually carried on. Well, I think there must be something wrong. Tyria grabbed Sheriff's wrist and tried to end the topic, but Sheriff seemed to go on but did not care her words. Her power was just awakened, and I'll train her to be an outstanding lady as her guardian. After Sheriff finished his talking, a loud applause rose from around. No kidding. That was to say, Sheriff's remarks had been recognized by everyone. Tyria just stood still without knowing what to say, and she wasn't aware of the sharp sight of the queen. Uh-oh. Queen's pissed. That's no good. Okay. That evening, Sheriff came to Tyria, who was sleeping in the hut. Wait, she was in a hut? No, I thought she was in a dormitory. It was Carol following him. I'm sorry for disturbing you. What can I do for you? He was supposed to invite them into the room, but Sheriff refused politely. As I said today, I'll be your guardian in the future. I'll make you become a worthy person of royal lineage with my own way. But I am not a person of royal lineage at all. Tyria remembered what had happened before and was eager to deny it, but Sheriff pressed on at every stage. Do you have evidence to prove that they are not a person of royal lineage? My parents and I are common people, so I don't belong to the royalty. Are you sure about it? Tyria could not say anything to retort upon Sheriff. She heard that her mother was a tutor and her father worked as a guard, but that was what her parents told her when she was a child. She never saw the work of her parents. I'm not sure. She bit on her lips unwillingly. Soon Sheriff, curving with a smile on his lips, said, Let's begin tomorrow. From tomorrow on, Carol will be your mentor. Mentor? In contrast to the surprised look of Tyria, Sheriff slowly appeased. Tyria had a strong and bad feeling. Oh boy. She was going to ask more about the details, but Sheriff and Carol said they have other things to do and then went back. Shit. We're only an hour in. Holy cow. I'm starting to get all stuffed up. Makes sense. Then Tyria went down the hall. After all, the venue needed to be cleaned up. While she was working quietly, suddenly came over the Queen's voice. Well done, you are really working so hard. To Tyria's surprise, she could be accosted by the Queen as a servant into the palace. As a result, she gave a salute happily. The Queen put her hand on Tyria's shoulder and smiled on seeing this. The Queen should be very tired, for she talked to various kinds of people at the banquet, but no tiredness could be seen on the Queen's face. Tyria thought of the promise made with Sheriff and wanted to seize the opportunity. Don't you feel tired? After she handed the wet towel to the Queen, the Queen praised that good girl and took over the towel with a smile. Start talking. Sheriff once said, the purpose to talk with the Queen is to let her guard down. Finally, he said, just chatting with the Queen is enough for lowering the standards. Well, can't get her standards any lower. Did it mean that fishing for information from the Queen? But it is difficult for Tyria to continue the conversation with the Queen, as for she didn't know what kind of information she should fish for. After all, the Queen and servant were very different. There were too few common topics. Speaking, I have not seen Mr. Victor. She said what she had just noticed incidentally. He had followed the Queen at the banquet, but now he had gone. Victor got in the night wind and went back to have a rest. What is getting in the night wind? I don't know. What's wrong with him? He could easily get drunk, and drunk too much today, so he is probably not feeling well. Perhaps thinking of the drinking look of Victor, the Queen laughed with her fan covering her lips. It is unreal that Mr. Victor could also not feeling well. Victor's furrowed look arised in the mind. Tyria could not help laughing. Is it Sheriff let you come here? Huh? The question came all of a sudden. No, it was confirming rather than questioning. The Queen's amber eyes stared at Tyria. Wait, her eyes are not amber. They're green. She seemed to see through everything. I don't know what you're talking about. Her sweats run down like raindrops on her back. Playing dumb was the only way for Tyria. It doesn't matter if you say nothing. Anyway, I have not getting along well with Sheriff for a long time. Is that true? Tyria replied in surprise. I am under Sheriff's surveillance. Under surveillance? The Queen's lips were hidden behind her fan, and whether she was laughing or not could not be seen. But the Queen was serious from her speaking way. Please tell Sheriff that everything he wants to know, come and ask me. Don't do in a roundabout way. The Queen said directly. There was no room for refutation. So she just basically outed her as, like, being a spy for Sheriff, and she's like, just tell him to come talk to me directly, don't just play these fucking games. While she was worried about what to say, the Queen had turned away. Oh, can we get through this boring shit? Let's get to the good stuff. Oh, good stuff's coming, but it's taking so long. Royal family secrets. The wooden door was knocked. Came the knock. The morning sun shone in through the window. Tyria, rubbing the glued eyes and opening the door, she found out it was Carol stood outside. He must come here to guide Tyria, following what Sharon said last night. Tyria could not imagine what the actual guide would be like. Good morning. We didn't need a lot of word from today on. I'll be your mentor to teach you. Well, as for the instruction, couldn't I do not follow it if I don't want to do it? No way! Carol refused with a face all smiles. The bright smile almost made everyone to make concession. What exactly is the guide and how do we do it? First, let's begin with the etiquette, common sense, and the history of the palace. Carol Temple was getting beat after hearing the groan of Tyria. Okay, God, this is so bad. It is not lovely to respond in such a way. I was going to ask, really? Starting the coach and training early, Tyria's face couldn't be bitter anymore. What exactly the teaching was, she seemed to understand a little. What's your answer? Tyria did not make any reply. See this? Carol could not help. Replying with well and earnest, and then he raised his lips. So, let's get started. Carol opened a paper bag with one hand. There seemed to be several books in it. He went into Tyria's room and took the books out of the paper bag and put them on the table. Primary etiquette, intermediate etiquette, and advanced etiquette were arranged in a row. We couldn't finish this in a day, so we'll start from primary etiquette today. Carol put intermediate etiquette and advanced etiquette back into the bag. Tyria made an unwilling sound. They do a lot of A in this room, in this game. Could you remember these 3 books today? Carol looked to this side in surprise. No, I mean, we'll study page 2 and page 3 of primary etiquette today. How could it be so simple? As Carol said, he opened the notebook toward the direction of Tyria. After she had the notebook and the pen, Carol opened the book of etiquette. It was very thick. Could we finish it today? There was no confidence in the heart. She was not particularly bad at learning, but study was definitely not easy. But Tyria patted his cheek to cheer up, sitting in the chair and holding the pen. As chewing the words of Carol repeatedly in the brain, she wrote and drew on the notebook. Tyria focused on study and get better. She almost had no rest and had been taking notes. Do you want to take a break? Carol worried that Tyria could be tired and asked. This is so boring! Can we get past this shit? But Tyria didn't nod her head. Carol thought perhaps it was the indomitable character that made her study so hard. As a result, Carol was stricter in the coach. Oh, man. How time flied. The sun was sinking, the sky was covered by a layer of black. The stars lit up in the distant sky as if the jewel box was overturned. It's all over now. Carol's hand stopped turning page after page, and finally the lesson of the first day was finished. Tyria was out of energy that she was lying on the table. Hey, this is not an improper manner. But the tension is gone all at once. Tyria, with a wry smile, could not help but pretend to be pitiful. You really work so hard. Carol wanted to caress Tyria's head with his slim hands. Oh boy. But his hands just stopped above Tyria's head and then put them back. Why did you put your hands back? Carol did not unlock Tyria's doubts. He just smiled. Would you like something to drink? Okay, please give me a cup of Darjeeling black tea. Do you really like it? Huh? Darjeeling black tea. Carol smiled towards his side. Once Carol went to Sharon's house, he made Darjeeling black tea for himself. Like. Thinking of this, Tyria nodded her head to Carol. I like it very much too. Tyria lowered her head. Tyria just caught Carol's eyes with an illusion of mutual confession. What's the matter? No, nothing at all. Never blush. Carol didn't know whether Tyria's wish came true or not, but made a cup of black tea. Okay, please. Thank you. Tyria took over the black tea and drank a sip of Darjeeling black tea immediately. The black tea made by Carol really tasted good. It was somehow out of the expectation. Tyria drank the warm black tea and felt warm all over. Then Carol stood up suddenly. It's time to finish the study. Is it the time to finish? After all, I couldn't stay in a woman's room too late. Sure you can't, buddy. You do know what type of game this is, right? Carol said half-jokingly. The way he smiled was so enchanting that the heart couldn't help beating up. Yes, yes. She didn't know what kind of expression should be, and didn't know what to do. That's it. I'll come tomorrow. Tyria stood up and watched Carol walk to the door. Until Tyria couldn't see him, she let out a long sigh of relief. Oh. The clock rang. Wait. Yeah, well, yeah. The clock rang late that night. That was a signal of phantom thief appearing. Tyria got up and tried to shut the window that had been open for ventilation at daytime, but suddenly she stopped like feet being frozen. Someone broke into the room from the window. Who is that? Tyria, who was dominated by fear, backed off a few paces. After turning on the light in the room, Tyria found a man in black standing beside her. She found out that was Henry after taking courage to move the black robe. Henry, what are you doing at this late hour? As soon as the words were asked, the door of the room was suddenly struck. I'm coming! Tyria opened the door and didn't know how long had her senpai been there. Phantom Thief appeared, and it is said that some got hurt. Tyria said loudly. Really? With a face of surprise, and if the senpai had been waiting for this word, then he began to speak. The captain of the guard hit the Phantom Thief with an arrow, and he is very proud of it. The senpai imitated how the captain looked for joy. You have to be careful of the Phantom Thief. He might stand behind you all of a sudden, the senpai said with the candle close to her cheek. In the dark corridor, dim candlelight shone on the face of the senpai. It even seemed a little funny to the scene. Okay, let me guess. Henry's got a freaking arrow stuck in him. After talking about for a while, senpai went to the next room. Maybe he would tell the same words to the person in the next room. When he thought like this, it seemed that he was not that scared, and he felt comfortable. Is she calling him a he again? Like, seriously, or is she talking about herself? Senpai, did you like gossiping? Closed the door and went to room. Henry still squatted there. Henry, what are you doing here so late? Touched Henry's shoulders with bitter smiling. The face of the opposite person was not good. Did you hurt? Told you. It seemed the mysterious robber appeared, and I heard he hurt. What senpai said appeared Tyria mind again. A wounded Henry was in front of him. Facing such a situation, nobody can laugh out. The expression of Tyria began to serious, and at last she asked, Are you a mysterious robber? Henry, shaken for a while because of these words. Although he said nothing, he covered his face with a hand immediately. Right, it appeared in the end. Do you want to avenge me? For what? Henry took off his gown and exploded his shoulder. So he took his gown off and his shoulder exploded. The wound was red and it seemed to hurt heavily. Why should I avenge you? Tyria moistened the towel with water and dabbed at Henry's shoulder. But the injury was so deep that the towel was slowly dyed blood red. Because little Tyria just told someone about me. I wouldn't have said it if you didn't want to. Really? Tyria was a little flustered when her hands was suddenly seized. It is true. Cough. A dry cough. Little Tyria, don't tell to anyone, please. She looked at the opposite hands and said yes, she agreed. Henry finally relented and his face softened a little. Then why are you doing so? He pushed open the two hands and tried to ask the question. But Henry said bitterly, I don't want to say. Why? I always have a feeling of despising me, said the man. Henry played like a child. It's surprising that an adult is still such a tall man. Okay. I'm sorry, she said, sorry to Henry. There is no contempt for it. It's just because I felt Mysterious Robber was not a good party. This kind of person is not aware of the words to say at the exit. But she didn't want to explain so much, so it was simply apologized. Then Henry said nothing, but after a while he suddenly said something. My dad used to be a mysterious robber, so I did a mysterious robber too. Your father used to be a mysterious robber? She was a little surprised and wide-eyed. Henry nodded happily, and his eyes were shiny. My dad used to be the most handsome mysterious robber. Oh, God. Now Henry was describing his father in his mind. He smiled brightly. Used to be the handsomest mysterious robber. Why is it ever? Because he's dead. Oh, well, sorry. Celia, sorry. Why are they calling her Celia? Who's Celia? Celia was sorry to hear that. I'm sorry. But Henry laughed and said, it doesn't matter. But his smile was a little strained. It must have been a reminder of his father's death. When did he pass away? 4 years ago. The first time I saw a mysterious robber was 4 years ago. The matter of that day was seared in the mind. I've always felt that Mysterious Robber was a hero of justice. Yes, but that's not necessarily wrong. Hold on. Get adjusted. Okay. What did that mean? A phantom thief means to be a robber or a thief. The criticism has never been praised. It seemed that some people were supporters of the mysterious robber, Henry said. What does that mean? Asked her, confused, and he answered immediately. Because it's a grand mysterious robber. Grand mysterious robber? But that was regarded as a criminal by the authority. But the grand mysterious robber is by the popular support. Henry affirmed that. It looked the same as imagined. We steal money from the powerful person who do all the wrong things and give it to the poor. Henry's tone was proud. It seemed to be taken for granted. It is not dangerous to do such a thing? Of course it's dangerous. It's a danger that my father will die. Henry's eyes blazed with flames. That is because of the hatred of the slain of their loved ones. The burning anger seemed never to go away. Is it a dangerous thing to do? Use disinfectant to cure Henry's injured arm. The wound was white and it looked painful. That's no good. The bandage rolled over Henry's shoulder and his expression was twisted with pain. Why not? She thought it was a little strange. Henry would answer at once, but he kept silent. When the bandage was over, Henry stood up and straightened his back. Thank you, little Tia. Okay. They keep calling her different shit. Henry ran away from the window with one arm in his hand. Henry's figure was gone when he was in a daze. She heaved a sigh of relief and lay back on the bed. Covered with a thin blanket, he went to sleep. A little bit into the deep sleep, there stood a man in front of her. It's like in a dream. Who is it? Who is the person in the dream? Okay, I'm guessing this is whoever I'm gonna end up with, since we've been going with Prince Lantis. Prince Lantis? After she sang, he came up to Teria. He reached out to her face, then moved to the neck, down to the shoulder, touched her arm. He's gonna stop there. He moved slowly and without stopping. Lantis hugged Teria's waist with his hand and held her back, just like the banquet day. Teria wanted to squirm out of the arm of Lantis, but his strength was greater than she thought, and her body couldn't move at all. Then Lantis put a white plate in Teria's hands and said, "Don't let the plate fall to the ground, or you'll be docked wages." Teria held the plate carefully so that it wouldn't fall, and Lantis, who planned this, touched her body immediately. This guy's a dick! His palms slid from her knees to her thighs, which made her body involuntarily lean back. But Lantis reached hands into the more secret place. Oh god. Don't! Teria shook her head, expressing unwillingness. But this didn't make him stop. I said no! Teria woke up with her hands waving at head and the forehead, and it was just a dirty dream. Hands were dripping with sweat. Damn it, why would I have such a dream? It was because of the drunken Lantis who had teased me on the day of the party. Putting her hands over her face, she felt a little warm in her face. Looking at the mirror hanging on the wall, her face looked very uneasy. The cheeks were flushed. It seemed a little unnatural. Tyria wanted to sleep a little longer and got into the blanket. This time, she pulled the blanket over the head and went back to sleep in a curled pose. She was trying to fall asleep but can't. She has sobered up. But she still closed eyes and tried to fall asleep, and finally the drowsiness came back. Oh boy. Hopefully now that we're on his route, officially, this shit will get going now. Good morning, Miss Tyria. There was a knock at the door and she opened her eyes. It was Carol's voice. God, he's the most boring of all the guys. The pillows were soft and the blankets felt so comfortable. Hiding in the quilt was too comfortable, so a blurry-eyed Tyria was in a daze for a moment. Sitting in bed and stretched, then she opened the door. Carol stood at the door like yesterday. Let's go to another room to study today. Tyria followed Carol to the hall and sat in front of the piano. Baby. Had a bad feeling. Have you learned the piano? As expected. Guessed right. Tyria shook her head. Then I have already prepared the piano textbooks for beginners. Watch this and start. There were 2 chairs in front of the piano. The left one was Carol and the right one was Tyria. It looked like Carol was in charge of accompaniment. She began to play the simple track in the textbook. While learning fingering and reading the music, she was playing it. What kind of lessons are these? Very good, that's it. When Carol finished his praise, there was a cacophony. Tyria played the wrong syllable. I'm sorry. It was not easy for Carol to teach the piano, but why can't I play it well? As he looked at Tyria, who was her shoulders slumped, Carol showed a reassuring smile. No one ever does anything from the beginning. Take your time. One who tries hard will succeed one day. Believe me, that ain't even the worst of it. In his words, it seemed that there was a power might not impossible transforming as the possibility, whatever the fuck that means. Inspired by Carol's words, Tyria learned to memorize piano finger pointing. Before she knew it, she could play the piano with one hand. God. This just lends itself to it. Alright. Then trying to play with 2 hands. Carol smiled. In this case, the 2 hands should do different movements. Tyria tried to play with 2 hands, but she wouldn't know the note if she didn't look at the textbook. But if she looked at the note, her fingers wouldn't know what to do. Then she confused. Don't ask. Didn't I tell you it was not right? Carol's scolding was transmitted. So here, I'm going to do that. Carol covered her finger one by one from above. I see. When she finally realized that and looked at Carol, he immediately retracted his hand. After that, no matter what kind of mistake she made, Carol didn't teach her with his fingers. Well, he didn't like touching me. She didn't know it's just for her or for everyone. But either way, it was a bit of a shock. Is everything okay? Tyria felt like she didn't look very well, and she wanted to read Carol's face. But she only felt his hands tremble. What? I'm alright. But Carol turned the textbook over again. Seeing wrong? What? What is wrong with him? Tyria rubbed her eyes and saw Carol falling back. Carol? She took off him quickly and dragged him to lie on the floor. She confirmed his breathing and pulse. The pulse was a little bit fast, but there should be no problem with normal breathing. Carol breathed painfully and his brow furrowed. It was hot on his forehead, like it was going to burn. The fever was very serious. She moistened the towel with water and put it on Carol's forehead, and covered him with a thin blanket. Aunt Cresta taught her this is the best when someone has a fever. Mom, don't. I'll be a good boy. What? Carol saw to be trapped in a nightmare, whispering something and shaking his head. He must have a nightmare. Tyria's hands wrapped in his hands, lowering her head like praying. May Carol got better soon. But before she knew it, Tyria felt a little dazed. The more you don't want to sleep, the more you can't keep your eyes open. So she fucking falls asleep with him. Oh my god. Somehow she went to sleep again. No, shit ain't happening with that guy. Now, when Lantis comes around, that's a different story. Then she didn't know how long it's been. When she woke up, Tyria heard a moving tone. Opening eyes, she saw that Carol was playing the piano, and she indulged in the music unconsciously. She stood up and wanted to go there. The blanket that should be covered in him slid down her feet. He covered me with the blanket? Picking up the blanket and standing by Carol, he smiled, as if what just happened was a dream. Thank you very much. Thanks to you, I'm energized. Carol, who was speaking with a smile, did recover. It seemed to have a fever. Great. Carol patted the chest and finally was a sigh of relief. Today I stop here. Covered the lip of grand piano, Carol began to wipe its body with the cloth carefully. Tyria really felt the emotion of cherishing the piano from the softness and movement. Oh, shit. Hey, Sam. Oh, you're coming in at just the good stuff. It's because the good shit's gonna start happening here. We got revelations coming, you guys. Your Majesty, good evening. Tyria met Her Majesty in the corridor on the way to bedchamber. It felt a little oddness, because Her Majesty's face was always white and fair. Today her face was a little red. Oh, it's Tyria. It is so hard for you so late. Patted Tyria's shoulder, Her Majesty smiled. Your Majesty, have you drunk wine? It's bad for your health to drink too much wine. There was flavor of wine from Her Majesty. I know, it's not just you, hopefully. Her footstep was not too steady, and that made Tyria a little worried. Ah, are you worried about me? Sure, Your Majesty. Let me go back to the room with you. Tyria held on the back of Her Majesty after the others said the sentence, please, and leaned on her. Oh. Two people walked side by side along the corridor. Yesterday, Prince Lantis's banquet is really grand. Yeah, but I do not expect you to be able to use the power of Anderdaz, Her Majesty said with a bitter smile. Was this the meaning that Her Majesty didn't like Tyria? The eye that the Queen looked at the side was a little cold. Because I didn't know what to say. The words only said a half. Who was herself? Shit, so God. Tyria didn't know how to say it all and felt nonplussed. In fact, Lantis is not a prince. He's not? What? When they went up the steps, Her Majesty suddenly whispered. The truth that Her Majesty whispered made Tyria dumbfounded. But Prince Lantis can use the power of Anderdaz. Yeah, he can't use it in principle. Tyria didn't know how to answer the Queen's words. So we had seen the power of Anderdaz by now. What was it? After Tyria thought it over and over again and came to a conclusion, I also touched on the cat that day when I first met Prince Lantis. Was that the reason that the power of Tyria's Anderdaz can play out? No, it can't be. Why does Your Majesty say these things to me? To say nothing of drunkenness, even the big secret of Lantis's birth was spoken out. Because you have a strict mouth. Her Majesty sipped her mouth and said with a smile, How do you sip your mouth? Did she lick her mouth? Lick her lips? I don't know. For the Tyria, how did Her Majesty think? It's completely confused. They arrived at the front of Her Majesty's room at last. Pushed the solid door, the room lay out with clever workmanship and gracefully delicate unfolded before Tyria's eyes. The ground was covered with a vermilion carpet that looked so advanced, so that people didn't have the heart to walk on it. Would you have a drink? When they entered the room, Her Majesty stretched out her hands to red wine on the table. A cup? That's enough, please. Her Majesty poured red wine into the glass, and one hand passed on Tyria. She had been drinking wine in this side, and seated into the sofa on the side. Then Her Majesty kept telling Tyria to drink. Although it can be rejected, Tyria didn't think that would be a good idea, so she drank red wine with a big mouth. Uh-oh, Tyria's getting drunk. You know what that means. Tyria was feeling to be drunk. Obviously, the queen said to drink a cup when Tyria came back to Earth, and five cups wine had been drunk. She's gonna be trashed. Tyria found a reason to leave, and finally escaped from Her Majesty's room. Then I will leave. After drinking red wine, Tyria bowed deeply and left Her Majesty's room. Tyria walked forward a step. The gravity of her body would shake it. Tyria kept her hands on the wall and moved a bit forward. Tyria shook and tried to adjust her pace to walk towards her own room. Oh my god, come on! The story's gotta get moving. Morning, when Tyria waked up, the palace was a little the crowding shouting. The servants walked up and down, and footsteps was in a hurry, as if there was anything urgent. What's the matter? Tyria stopped from the senpai, who rushed past before her eyes. Prince Lantis was missing from the palace. The senpai finished the sentence with breath even without a pause. You can see who was much panicked. I was going to find Prince Lantis. Is it better? How to choose? You know, it's funny that they just tell you which one choice is for what. I mean, I'm not complaining, but... Well, I'll find him too. Tyria quickly made a decision. Are you going to find Prince Lantis with me? After all, the more people, the easier it is found. Well, you go to the town below and look for him. The palace inside has almost finished. Why do you go to the city town below? Because it is the playground of Prince Lantis. I understand it. Tyria nodded and walked in the direction of the town below. The town is near the palace, and it should be there soon. Okay. It was not long before she saw the street of a city. There were narrow alleys and small stalls along the street. People visited those stalls. If it's not for Lantis, it's a good place to go shopping. Tyria decided to ask about the clerk at the booth if they saw Lantis. When she asked about the third store, the clerk said she had seen Prince Lantis a few minutes ago. The information was of great value. After asked which direction Lantis went to, in short, it was in that direction to look for him. Tyria crossed the alley and saw a place that was similar to the square below the slope. To the square below the slope? What is that supposed to mean? There was noise coming from a pub nearby. Because of having a bad foreboding, Tyria flew past. Hey, this is the place I used to work. The moment she opened the door, a man hit the wall. No, it should be said to be bounced to the wall. It's more appropriate. What happened on Earth? Lantis stood there, and his shoulders were ups and downs, breathing hard. He's probably drunk. His face was slightly red. The man beside the wall seemed to have drunk too, and he was not able to stand up at once. The tables and the chairs were in disorder, and the other guests were hiding corner. Nor did she see the shop owner, just as she thought. Her sight suddenly caught the shopkeeper who was hiding under the counter for fear. Bastard, aren't you a prince? You think you could do such a thing? Noisy. Don't wail like ghosts and howl like wolves. I hate men most. Men most. Although his mouth spoke out curse, he didn't lose his cool. He put the table back and sighted down on the chair. You are a bastard. Seeing Lantis this, the man flew into a rage and intended to seize the Lantis. However, Lantis easily held the man's hand toward his collar, then his lip corner pulled. Nitwit, you're trying to provoke me. There was absolute confidence in his words. He must have been trained like martial arts. The power of Lantis controlled the degree that can nearly break the man's wrist. The man screamed for the pain. Finally, Lantis let him go and he ran away. And he left, you remember it, the classic lines. Alcoholics? Wait, alcoholists? Oh my god. However, Lantis began to drink again as if nothing had happened. What's the matter? She finally approached Lantis and asked. Hello, Tyria. When he found out that the man was Tyria, he raised a hand and waved. When I got to him, he whistled merrily. What are you doing here? What are you doing here? You just want to ask that question. Everybody is worried about you and looking for you everywhere. Tyria felt very angry and pretty fidgety for Lantis's careless tone. Worried about me? This is because I am the son of the king, isn't it? What? It sounded like that Lantis was falling out with her. Looking carefully at his face, he was furious, just like kids. Have he heard Tyria's conversation with the queen? After asking, Lantis just held his chin in silence. He seems to be no intention of answering. So, another question. Why did you think if you were not the son of the king, we wouldn't worry about you? Do not ask me this silly question. Because people only care about my personal status and try to please me. That's because you were the prince. There must be some flattering people. Hey, Kaseya! Oh, you're coming in at the right time. You really didn't miss much. Seriously, I just spent an hour and a half doing all the boring shit. But the good stuff is coming. So what happened? We found out that, Tyria is the one who has the Underdog's ability, not Prince Lantis. And then Prince Lantis is actually not the son of the king. So... And then Lantis, kind of accosted got drunk and was all over Tyria, so... Okay. But we cannot say that everyone is like this, right? Listening this question, Lantis was lost in thought. Why do you think that the man is by your side, Billy? Is that her name? Wait, why are they... Oh yeah, and they keep calling each other different names. That's like one of the best parts. The woman who was very close to Lantis and came back with the parasol. The people I met is different with the name I remembered in my head. It feels like something is wrong. You mean Libby? That's right, it's her. Even if you weren't the king's son, wouldn't there be any change in attitude to you? She seems to have a crush on Lantis, so if she had known the commotion, she would have been worried. How about you? Hearing his next breath, Tyria was startled. Would you feel lonely without me? Lantis's noble blue eyes were flickering. Then what? It had never occurred to her that Lantis would go on, because every time they met, she would be teased. So actually, Tyria wanted to keep apart with Lantis, but it cannot be said in front of his face. Why can't I speak out? She should be the person who says what she thinks. So far, no one has been counted as a friend because of his impolite remarks. Tyria seemed to be afraid of hurting him. Hey, Dragon! Oh man, you're coming in with good stuff. Good shit's gonna get started. I'm lonely. For this reason, I told a lie to him without hesitation. By hearing my words, Lantis relaxed his mouth gently. Really? He smiled like a child. Although I was not comfortable because of the lie I just told, I felt happy due to his smile. Tyria gave a slight smile with complicated emotions. Let's get back to them. I see. Yeah, I know. That's okay. They skipped the boring stuff. Unexpectedly, Lantis agreed with her without the least hesitation. Tyria was disappointed. She thought he would resist for a while since he got drunk. Yeah, this translation's not very good. But Lantis walked after her compliantly. Oh, we're gonna get to the bottom of it. And find out what's going on with the king. Yeah, it's an RPGMaker visual novel thingy. At the time that Lantis got back to the palace, everyone was cheerful for returning of the prince. By seeing this, Tyria touched her chest and got relieved. As expected, Prince Lantis must stay in the palace. Lantis accepted no severe punishment, but only confinement punishment of 3 days. During that period, Lantis attempted to run away for many times. Tyria requested him to get back to his room after she was detected, when Lantis tried to touch her with a smile. However, every time he saw my afraid expression, God, mushmouth, he took back his hands. Yeah, this is SakuraGame. This is indeed SakuraGame. What's wrong with him? Lantis was rude to stroke Tyria at will before, but he got hesitated at only a touch. Was that Lantis who would like to stroke all girls? Unbelievable. Tyria was puzzled about the great change of Lantis. He wanted to stroke every girl before. See? We're talking about stroking girls. Tyria hesitated if she should ask him about it, but she didn't. In the past, when Lantis got fresh with her, Tyria felt disgusting. However, when he didn't, Tyria felt disappointed. It's coming, I swear. What's wrong? Tyria could not figure it out. He must have something wrong. Lantis got no fresh with her because he had something wrong. She believed so. She believed that was the reason. Then Lantis finished his confinement punishment of 3 days. Seeing him going out again, Tyria had a pain in her chest. Did I have something wrong again? Tyria thought the pain would disappear soon, but it got more serious. Am I ill? But it had strange attacking time, because the pain only attacked when she saw Lantis. Such an unknown pain was aggravated when saw Libby or other servants were on side of Lantis. Who the hell is Libby? Incredible. Because of the fear about such a pain, Tyria often avoided Lantis sensibly. Once she saw Lantis, she hid behind Anne senpai to avoid eye contact with him. Alright, so clearly she's falling for the guy. Clearly. Stuffed up. Okay. Come on. Shit's gotta get going. Moving now. Come on. Oh, yes. When everyone was asleep, Tyria waked up suddenly for hearing around the beast roar. What's the matter? The sight was blurred. She rubbed her eyes and tried to blink. When finally saw it clear, she was shocked by the animals in front of her, and that made her pupils shrink. Tiger, what was wrong? Was that wrong? Or the dream had not yet awakened? But the tiger was neither saw mistakenly nor because of dreamed, and it's in Tyria's bedroom. What the fuck is a tiger doing in there? The cold sweat flowed down her back. Real tiger. Tyria lay on the bed and was unable to move. The tiger is a little special. Fortunately, the tiger did not seem to notice Tyria's existence. Then the tiger suddenly moved from the opening door to the corridor. Who did put the tiger into the house? Tyria took a deep breath and calmed herself down. Tigers were ruled as beasts of prey by the country, so the general public was banned to raise a tiger. Therefore, the number of people who can raise tigers was limited. When Tyria's letter was slowly put back, there was commotion again in the corridor. Tyria jumped up from the bed and moved quickly to the corridor. When she got closer to the center of the disorder, she heard a dangerous sound. It must be the tiger just now. But no tiger was seen when she got closer to the center of the disorder. There was only senpai and a lot of servants running around in a flurry, and there must be a considerable disorder. Where is the tiger, senpai? You saw it too? It seemed to run toward the city. He replied to me ambiguously. He might have guessed something. What's wrong? Is that tiger the one kept by the queen? Hearing the words of senpai, Tyria was so astonished that she kept her eyes widely opened. Did the queen put a tiger in the room of Tyria? What the queen wanted from Tyria, she did so. There was no motive. She keeps interchangeably calling her a he. By the way, if Tyria really mastered the end... Wait, is it Ander? Is this supposed to be Anderdaw's power? Why is it Anbud? Daw's power. The criminal who drove that tiger could be found out. I'm seeking for that tiger. Hey, wait! Tyria played at senpai and ran after the tiger. Oh, shit. Alright. She chased toward the direction of the tiger and found it soon. The tiger gave rise to disorders where it was, with crowded people. At the end of the road in the city, Tyria got to a place like a square and came across the scene that a tiger was attacking people. As if she wanted to hit the tiger with her body, Tyria ran to the tiger as fast as she could. She was thin and weak, but held the neck of the tiger in order to firstly restrain its attacks. The tiger tried to throw her away repeatedly, and then Tyria was almost thrown by the tiger. She was taken by the tiger to the bridge edge and almost fell down in the lake. But she still held the tiger desperately, and the tiger calmed down gradually. The tiger stopped moving because of exhausted, with a shining body. There were rays of light in its eyes. The rays were shined on the water and reflected with images. I just need to put the tiger in the room with Tyria, right? A man. Right, thank you for doing that. The voice of the man and that of the other person seemed familiar. Queen was not the criminal. Tyria saw the criminal when the man delivered the lock of the tiger to the other. Aunt Cresta! It can't be! Tyria was shocked. The criminal was a person that she was very familiar. She could not keep calm. It seems that I've been exposed. When Tyria planned to make her chaotic brain calm down, this voice came behind her. She turned around and found Aunt Cresta standing there. Aunt Cresta, why did you put the tiger? I'm sorry, Tyria, because I was requested to do that, and I cannot refuse it. Aunt Cresta frowned and showed a sorry expression. Who is that? Immediately after she asked, there was a huge shot. Aunt Cresta fell down backward, leaving a scene of a slow motion in front of Tyria. Was that a gunshot? Tyria held Aunt Cresta, who fell down. She looked around. Who is that? She looked the house toward the crowded places, but found no similar person. Take this, Tyria. Aunt Cresta delivered something to Tyria. Tyria unfolded her palm and found small script. This was the information acquired and written down by Tyria before. She could not make a mistake because the words were just written by her. Hasn't it been burnt as a rubbish before? I was ordered to burn it down, and I planned to do so, but I didn't. Aunt Cresta pressed her left chest, showing a very painful expression. Order? From whom? She asked Aunt Cresta so as to know the truth. But Aunt Cresta would never open her eyes again. Aww. Unexpectedly, somebody manipulated Aunt Cresta stealthily. Tyria held the hands of Aunt Cresta tightly. Why is the tiger just sitting there still? I would find out the truth one day. It started raining. Then it rained more heavily, making Tyria totally wet. On that day, Tyria kept holding the hands of Aunt Cresta, whose body was totally cold. And now we totally forget about the tiger that was rampaging around town and killing people. No matter how she did not hope the coming of the next day, but the sun rises every morning. Tyria seldom fell asleep, and her eyes were red and swollen because of weeping, like a little white rabbit. Today was the day for the funeral of Aunt Cresta. They have lived together for such a long time, but she had to say goodbye to Aunt Cresta now. They're coming! Although she made up her mind, when she saw the coffin of Aunt Cresta, her resolution was changed. She glanced at Aunt Cresta, who was in the coffin. There was a smile on the pale face of Aunt Cresta. Tyria relaxed a little by seeing this. Thank you for taking care of me for so long, Aunt Cresta. Tyria choked with sobs and finally told her leaving words to Aunt Cresta by taking efforts. Later, several people came to the funeral, because the funeral of Aunt Cresta was only notified to several close people, and the gun shooting event was not published. Oh, gun shooting event. I'm guessing that they meant an honor guard. After the end of the funeral, Tyria got to the house, and she used to live together with Aunt Cresta. We gotta get through all of this shit before we can get to that stuff. So quiet. To open the door of the hallway, Tyria had such a feeling. It was reasonable because Tyria was left there alone. She recalled the time that Aunt Cresta was together with her. It was long ago. Tyria told Aunt Cresta that, "Please do not wait for me for dinner," but she found that Aunt Cresta still waited her home to have the dinner together. Aunt Cresta was a mild and gentle person. Seeing the little garden where Aunt Cresta planted flowers, the kitchen where Aunt Cresta taught her to cook, the bed Aunt Cresta helped Tyria cover her up, the whole house was full of memories about Aunt Cresta. Tyria tried her best to hold up the emerging tears. Oh. She came to the kitchen to clear up the cupboard and something dropped down. Tyria was shocked. It was a recipe with numerous pieces of paper. They scattered on the ground and were piled up. Tyria planned to pick them up and put them back, but she stopped when she picked up the uppermost one. This was about the cooking method of stewed dishes. Tyria recalled that at the time she wanted to know the special flavor of stewed dishes and requested Aunt Cresta to teach her. Tyria cooked by taking the recipe as the reference. She planned to cook the stewed dish on that day. She thought cooking meant reading the recipe, cutting the food materials, and adding in seasoning blocks after the dish was cooked thoroughly. Unexpectedly, varieties of seasoners had to be added into the dish, which astonished Tyria. After cooking according to the recipe, Tyria decided to have a try immediately. Yummy! But there was something different from the one cooked by Aunt Cresta. I can never taste the dishes made by Aunt Cresta. The dish I made at that time was delicious because of the help of Aunt Cresta. Tyria looked around. She felt that Aunt Cresta was smiling to her, but Aunt Cresta is not here. She could not help weeping. Aunt Cresta, who raised Tyria for 14 years, was not here. What would Aunt Cresta do if she knew Tyria could not help weeping for her? She must tell Tyria that don't be depressed for such a tiny thing to wake her up. Then she must encourage Tyria. Tyria wiped the tears and beaded her face with hands. Then she stretched her hand into the pocket to take out the scrap of paper. This scrap was left by Aunt Cresta with mortal danger. Go ahead to the mansion of Sheriff. This was the only thing that Tyria could do now. Yes, she did, and her aunt did try killing her with a tiger. But it wasn't her fault. Okay. She walked through the road and came to the mansion of Sheriff as usual. She knocked at the door and Sheriff opened the door. He didn't go out today. He still kept his gray hair with the pomade as usual to welcome guests in a neat way. I'm here to talk to you for something. Okay, come in. Revenge. She was led into the mansion by Sheriff and sat in the sofa she sat before. Well, what do you come here for? Hearing the words of Sheriff, Tyria started telling. She told him about the words of the Queen. Do not beat about the bush. You can come over in person if you want to know something. You mean the Queen wants you to deliver this, right? It seems that we have to break through directly, Sheriff said in a low voice as if he did not know the result. In addition, I have the scrap of paper with the information of my first mission. Can I give it to you? This was what Aunt Cresta wanted to protect, even devoted her life. If Sheriff does not accept it, I have to stay here for long until he accepts it. Taking the scrap of paper from Tyria, Sheriff took out his magnifying glasses to read it because of his presbyopia. Presbyopia? I don't know what the fuck that is. Well done, Tyria. According to the agreement between you and me, I'll tell you the death of your parents. Tyria put forth her strength and nodded and straightened her back. Oh boy. Why is it giving me this? Fine. I'm going for Lantis. Your parents may still be alive. Gasp. Really? Is that what it is? I love how they like slipping that shit into these things. Tyria doubted if she heard right. This news astonished her. I hear that the remains of my parents have been found. Who told you that? Tyria had no idea about who told her that. A guard regiment told her about the death of her parents, so she could not tell their names. Sheriff stared at her with an expression that he had known everything. In fact, that person was bribed by someone to tell you that. What? Terry was so shocked that she could not help leaning forward, but she tried to calm down immediately. That person was bribed? Who did that? Who benefited from that? It could not be forgiven. But they did not know where your parents were, alive or dead. Massaging his jaw, Sheriff showed an expression of deep thought. I wish that they were still alive. The girl who could do nothing but crying on that day was grown into an adult with capabilities. Right, she was an adult now. She could act with deep considerations. So Tyria decided, I'll try to seek for my parents. Then I'll expose the conspiracy behind it. Looking up at Tyria, who stood up suddenly, Sheriff slightly nodded. Then try your best. I'm your guardian. Come to me at any time. With a trustful expression, Sheriff encouraged her. It would be cheerful if he could do that. Well, I have to go. She made a bow before leaving. You need Carol to send you? Asked by Sheriff, but Tyria refused euphemistically. Because the palace was not far away, and she did not want to make Carol work for her. Is euphemistically a word that could be used for being... I think they meant enthusiastically. Coming out from the mansion of Sheriff, Tyria walked to the palace. Alright, we're gonna get to the bottom. I know. We're gonna get to the bottom of this shit, you guys, and then it's booty call time. Okay. True. They get points for that. After getting back to the palace, Tyria walked to her workplace. The dusk sunlight reflected to the lobby floor, making people dizzy. We're getting there. I'm going to try and finish this up. Hopefully it doesn't go too much longer. Tyria narrowed her eyes and saw the queen was walking towards the stairs to the ground floor. Why is she hiding? Tyria quietly followed her, feeling confused. But going downstairs would make noises anyway. Tyria was anxious about being noticed. The stairs led to the dungeon. It was dark with only lights on the wall to light up the surroundings. No, it's about 4 hours long. The queen went to a cell and spoke something. Tyria could not hear a word from where she stood. After that, the queen began to return. Tyria hurried up and hid in a shady place until the queen went past her. Yeah, it's we streamed about an hour and a half last week, so I'm assuming if I go maybe just another half hour, we should be done. Several minutes later, the queen finally passed Tyria, and she gave out a breath with relief. What is the queen trying to hide? Tyria went downstairs again to the dungeon and came to the cell where the queen stopped and talked earlier. The cell did not look messy. It was separated to several sections at a 3-meter interval. Looking into the cell, Tyria was startled. There was someone inside the cell, and Tyria knew her very much. It was a woman with almost white hair. Tyria had icy pink-colored hair and eyes. It suddenly occurred to her that this woman might have the same hair color before. It was Tyria's mother. Even though she looked slightly changed from that of 14 years again, Tyria couldn't be wrong. Her arms and legs were extremely thin, as if she had not been having anything nutritious to eat. Mother! Tyria grabbed the cell bars and called to her mother, Rena. Rena's eyes looked hollow. After seeing Tyria, she gave out a faint of smile. You look so cute, just like my child Tyria. What's your name? Tyria opened her eyes wide. It seemed Rena didn't recognize her. What are you talking about, Mother? It's me, Tyria. She grabbed the bars tightly. Rena tilted her head and laughed. What are you talking about? Tyria is a small child. No way she is as big as you are. Rena gestured the height of her kid with her hands. As she was sitting, she gestured somewhere near her head. That's because you remember me from the past. It's useless. After these words, Tyria could hear someone whispering from the cell next door. She looked at the other side of the concrete wall. There she saw her father for the first time in 14 years, Ivan. Tyria, you have grown up. Tyria frowned. Her father didn't look as powerful as he was before. He became so thin that it would make anyone wonder if he had ever eaten properly. Father, what have you eaten? Have you eaten properly? Yeah, but I just couldn't swallow food. Ivan smiled bitterly and started to cough. A sense of uneasiness started to grow in Tyria's heart. Anyway, why are you locked in this place? Tyria, I was trying to keep this secret from you. I'm not your real father. Father said. His expression told me he was not kidding at all. If you are not my father, then who is my real father? It's the king. Gasp. Ivan hesitated and spoke out the words, while Tyria startled and gasped. If the king was Tyria's father, then it made sense that she could use the Anbud Taw's power. Why pretended to be my father? Tyria, Lena fell in love with the king 2 decades ago, when she gave birth to you without telling the king. Originally, if Lena became the queen, she could have hung on to her statue, but she refused. What? Ivan seemingly was talking with Tyria the past stories. He was squint, looked like immersed in memories. Jareen, the current queen, was extremely unhappy and spoiled for trouble with Lena frequently when she heard the news of the birth of the baby. The reason why I pretend to be your father is to protect Lena and you. Although Tyria had no blood relation with Ivan, he fostered her like his own daughter. Possibly stature. What exactly happened on the day 14 years ago? Tyria suddenly became emotional and asked. The queen troubled more and more aggravated. Finally, she even found the excuse of being Prince Lantis' teacher to call into her palace. What? I don't understand. After that, the queen imprisoned us in the name of treason. So Prince Lantis really isn't her son? What? How could she do that? That's really too much. The queen began to torture Lena with whipping, pouring cold water, and beating. Finally, Lena couldn't stand that, and got a little strange. A little strange? Tyria felt very frightened when she heard these cruel tortures. That so-called punishments were corporal punishments, actually, and must be unimaginable tortures. Ivan removed his sight to the next cell. Lena could look like hollow, and she sung the accounting song. The accounting song? Sorry. There's nothing she can do when her parents were suffered. Thus, Tyria felt very remorseful. This isn't your fault. Even so, the gentle Ivan also couldn't say any blame words to Tyria. I couldn't live for a long time. Ivan coughed badly. Then the blood coughed by Ivan was splattered on the floor. Due to the sufferings I have experienced for these years, I am ill. Even if Ivan felt very painful, but in order to avoid seeing his vulnerability, he also said with smiling. Tyria understood his purpose, therefore she became more sorrowful. All right, leave now, Tyria. The guards will be back right away. However, Tyria had never seen the soldiers before. Maybe they were resting. If that's true, we couldn't be so slow, because the soldiers would come back at any time. Dad and Mom, I must come back and save you. I would pray for you to have a happy life. Finally, Tyria left the cell reluctantly. I'm getting stuffed up again, you guys. We gotta push through. We gotta finish this. Because I don't think I'm gonna be here on Thursday. Okay. When Tyria walked down the steps and came to the passage, she brushed against the soldiers. No, for whatever reason, if I'm reading a visual novel and I read for 2 hours straight, I get congested. Go figure. It happens every time. The soldiers were walking down the stairs along the same path Tyria walked, and Tyria felt very nervous. Although she was not found by them, there were many things happened today. Possibly not. We'll see. Tyria returned to her own room and fell asleep immediately. Maybe she was so tired. Tyria thought no one would disturb her sleep when she was thinking. Uh-oh. Suddenly, someone grabbed her neck. She felt difficult to breathe and constantly struggled. The hand grabbing her neck was broke away, maybe due to Tyria's continued struggle. Who the hell is it? When the room was lighted, a silhouette appeared. Mantis, Prince! Why was he here? Even though Tyria was choked, but she still tried to calm down. Why? Huh? Tyria could hear clearly and spontaneously turned to Lantis. Why you are here? What do you say? Tyria felt very confused, and she retorted. If you don't appear, I would be the first in line to the throne. To heir the throne? You were talking the thing that the crown prince would inherit the throne, Tyria thought dazedly. You are so hateful, and I should hate you, but I... Lantis buried his head into his arms and sighed. What in terms of hate? We should hate each other. I hate you so much too. Tyria suddenly said like that. Then Lantis was staring at her. I am talking about your mother, the queen instead of you. Tyria looked hard at Lantis. Seemingly, the person in front of her was the queen. What? My mother? You say you hate her. Why? Because my parents were convicted of treason and imprisoned in the underground by your mother. Lantis stared at her in amazement. You lie. My mother won't do that. It's no bullshit. Tyria saw everything by herself. Damn it, it's not bullshit. When Tyria told the whole story to Lantis, Lantis' facial expression had been distorted painfully. Sorry, although these matters couldn't be settled via my apology. I never think you should be so painful due to these things. Lantis was staring at Tyria. Tyria didn't want to hear Lantis' apology, because anyone's apology except the queen's was no point. And Tyria hoped that the queen could apologize to her parents. And what Tyria hoped most was the queen could release her parents. And I am so sorry about grabbing your neck just now, Lantis whispered. Tyria gave a wry smile. In fact, when Lantis stopped grabbing her neck, she had forgiven him. Why you are so eager to the right of succession? Because I think if I can heir the throne after my father passed away, then my mother must be so happy for me. This guy talks like he's special. Tyria originally thought everything Lantis did to get the throne was for himself, but she was wrong. He did it for his mother, unexpectedly. He also had lovable side. For some reason, Tyria suddenly felt Lantis was a little lovable. Maybe for that reason, Tyria naturally extended hands to touch his head. It's the first that his head is touched by others, Lantis, seemingly unbelievable, said. That's normal. After all, touching a prince's head was so impolite. I am amazing for you at the very beginning. At the very beginning? Tyria couldn't remember what was it for a moment, so she blinked. Who punched me on my belly? What? Wait, is he talking back to the beginning, or is he just really special? Oh shit, silent for a while. It's me. Tyria's head cocked sideways. Lantis nodded with a straight face. Right. It was you. Did you hinder me to chase girls, didn't you? Was this all my fault? Tyria felt the perspiration start forth upon her body. Did you hit my head with wine bottle? Yes, you did. Lantis absolutely didn't know what she could say, because all of these things were related to Tyria. But finally, it's all your fault. Tyria toughly pointed at Lantis with her index finger, then Lantis frowned. Why is it my fault? I just followed my own instinct. Don't talk to the instinct. You are not wild animals. Tyria sighed. At the time, Lantis suddenly extended his hands to her cheek. Uh-oh. What are you doing? Why, I care about your things so much. The distance between them was so close that their size could be felt by each other. It's dangerous. The warning was sent out from Tyria's heart. In terms of love, there was a huge gap between Lantis with many experiences and Tyria without any experiences. Tyria had witnessed the situation of Lantis chasing girls for many times. Therefore, in her mind, Lantis was able to chase girls regardless of whoever she was. If he stared his action to Terraria, maybe she could be fallen easy. I don't know what I just said. Heart rate was so fast. But Teria still made every effort to stop herself from thinking Lantis. It's impossible for me to fall in love with him. Teria determined to stare at Lantis, and unexpectedly there was a smile on his face. Then Lantis slowly approached Teria, and Teria spontaneously closed her eyes. Teria felt a sense of soft touch on her forehead. She quietly opened her eyes and saw Lantis move back. Damn it, you guys! Not yet. It's enough for today. I would restrain myself, but I don't know how long I can restrain. He eyed Teria like a predator. Well, huh? Teria said in an indifferent tone and removed her sight deliberately. But actually, her heart was enough nervous to explode. To avoid being founded by Lantis, she tried her best to cover her expressions. Maybe her efforts were returned, and Lantis should leave the room obediently. You mustn't fall asleep tomorrow midnight. What? Why not? Lantis left a confused sentence. Alright, I don't blow my nose again. Give me a second. Yeah, it pretty much is. Distress of the two. Okay, we're getting there, you guys. Alright. The next midnight had been coming more quicker than Teria expected. Teria worked in morning and received the guidance of Carol in afternoon, so she was so exhausted. But she wanted to know what exactly meaning of the sentence was, so she decided to not sleep. The doorbell was ringed at 12 o'clock. That sounded like a knock. The time was so accurate. She opened the door and saw Lantis was standing there. Alright, let's go. Lantis held Teria's hand right away and took her to the passage. Action was so fast that Teria had no time to react but stunned. Pretty much. Wait a moment. Where are we going? She didn't want anyone else to hear that, so she asked in an undertone. What do you think? Looking at Lantis' odd smile, she began to be flurried. If I will be taken into Lantis' room... No, I am not ready for that. But she's going anyway. Teria closed her eyes tightly and tugged Lantis' hand. Then Lantis suddenly stopped, and Teria's face almost bumped into his wide back. Lantis still held Teria's hand and walked down to the step nearest from them. The place is like I and my parents were meeting here yesterday. Lantis went into the place openly without any hiding. Teria felt so surprised about his over-casual attitude. He is Prince Lantis, isn't he? Even if the prince, he also could not pass the further place. He absolutely couldn't pass without being founded by the guards, and finally, he was still founded by them. As long as you let me pass, this is yours. Lantis whispered to the guard while putting his hand into his pocket. No, Prince, I couldn't do that, the guard said in a flurry. The guard must think that Lantis would give him money. And Teria had the same thought. But... Lantis curled the right hand into a fist and punched the guard's belly. Isn't he wearing armor? The guard made a short "oh" and then fell down to Lantis. Lantis took the key from the insensible guard and slammed him against the ground. I hate mail. I hate them so much. Lantis panted. Does he say he hates men? I think he's saying he hates men. Lantis patted the shoulder and arm touch with the guard, just now like knocking dust. Why do you hate the mail? I don't want to say the reason. Teria just thought... Sorry, the reason is hilarious. Teria just thought his behaviors were like the symptoms of illness, so she began to ask, but she was refused by him right away. What is the reason Lantis was unwilling to say? Teria was very curious. Please tell me, she asked for many times. Finally, Lantis slowly began to say the reason. I was forced before, with the extremely hated expression. Tyria thought Lantis should have this kind of looking. The place is not the place for talking. So, yeah. He was forced before, that's why he hates men. But there's more to it than that. After picked himself up again, Lantis moved forward continually, closely followed by Tyria. After a while, they came to the cell and imprisoned her parents. Rena still looked at the ceiling and as the same as the past. Yeah, like forced. Ivan in the next cell was sitting yesterday. However, he is lying on the bed now. He lay deathly still. Dad, what's wrong with you? Cheer up, please. Tyria cried across iron fences. But Ivan still had no reaction. Tyria almost fell into panic. Then Lantis immediately opened the door with the key. They stepped into the cell and made sure whether Ivan still had conscience. He still had breath. Tyria breathed a sigh of relief, and Lantis suddenly said, I take care of this one. You save the woman in the next cell. Lantis gave Tyria the key, and then he lifted Ivan. Although Lantis looked like so weak, but he really had some strengths. Tyria, standing there, almost was immersed in that, so she removed her eyes quickly. Then she came to the cell, imprisoned Rena, and unlocked the door. Mom, come out, please. Tyria extended her hands to Rena sitting in the corner. Ha, you come again? Are you here to play? When Rena noticed Tyria, she smiled. Then she grasped her hands, while Tyria also breathed a sigh of relief. Tyria hadn't held Rena's hands for a long time. Rena's fingers were so thin that touched like a skeleton. Tyria wanted to find a place for her to have a rest quickly. Come here. I like how he's just dragging him. He led Tyria and her parents out of the cell. Okay. Almost there. And took the carriage. Seemingly, Lantis had prepared everything in advance. They rocked from side to side with the carriage and moved forward. Even though Tyria was watching the changeable views, she simultaneously held Rena's hand. Just like said, I won't leave you again. The place they arrived was a mansion, surrounded by green trees and blossom flowers, and the environment was so beautiful. Tyria and her parents never saw the so beautiful scenery like this. The place is my secret base, and no one in Palace knows it, so this is a secret base, is a fucking house. Lantis said with the hint of a smirk on his face. Looked like a child made mistakes and been founded. Well, let's go inside. The mansion not only had the magnificent appearance, but the inner decoration was so elegant. The builder must have worked so hard to build it, and the inside was printed the same color. Lantis put Ivan on the bed and called a doctor to diagnose him. Pretty much. Tyria felt so nervous. She worried whether her parents could be cured. Will the doctor tell their secret to anyone else? But her concern was just an imaginary fear. When Tyria told Lantis what's in her mind in agony, he assured her, he is a specialist I employ with superb skills, and more importantly, he won't reveal the secret to anyone. Tyria feels relieved after these words. Then she walks to Rena's room. Rena was sleeping like a log now, but a few minutes ago she was singing in the bed. Watching Rena sleeping soundly, Tyria calmed down. Suddenly, she yawned. Why don't you take a sleep in the room next door? We carry out the operation in the middle of the night. I guess you don't take enough sleep. So they're actually going to do an operation right there in the house? When speaking that, Lantis looked worried, but Tyria was delighted to hear that. Thanks, you didn't take any sleep, right? I have been sleeping less since a long time ago. It's okay for me. In that case, you couldn't say you were okay. After hearing what she said, Lantis snored and pretended to be asleep. Tyria laughed out loud when he made the funny actions. She laughed for a little while, then she stared at Lantis. Anyway, you helped me save my parents. Weren't you worried about the punishment? I am the person behind all this. I don't care about the damn punishment at all. As long as your parents couldn't be saved, I would leave no regrets. The man who was talking was really a man with pure conscience. Could I say that? Shouldn't he be the prince? Thank you for everything. The gratitude arising from her deep inside made her being unable to control her feelings and says that. Then a mischievous smile appeared on Lantis's face. If you want to show your thanks, I hope it will be with your body. Really? He says that right in front of him. Her mom's laying right in the freaking bed. What, my body? Tyria repeated with that unintentionally. Although Lantis explained it as a joke quickly, a slight sense of unhappiness was still showing in her face, as she felt like he was playing with her. I also want... The unyielding Tyria asked Lantis to close his eyes. Tyria stood on tiptoe, kisses Lantis on his cheeks gently and quickly. Tyria. Watching Lantis crying out loud, there was a smile of triumph in her face. So, when can you stop teasing me? Suddenly a serious expression appeared in his face. How could you take it as teasing? It's not teasing at all. Tyria just wanted to show her gratitude. However, her actions seemed to motivate Lantis completely. He held her, walked to the room next door. Let me go! Let me go! Oh no. Tyria was moving in his arms. Then Lantis pretended to warn her threateningly. You would fall if you didn't stop. As she couldn't do anything, Tyria stayed in his arms obediently. I thought there was more until this part. No, I don't think that's it yet. Oh, maybe it is. Lantis put her in the king bed gently. Then he lied down on her. Tyria couldn't do anything. She was just confused. Lantis embraced Tyria with his eyesight. His eyes were glittering with sapphires in the sun. The color was so beautiful. It seems like that she will be sucked in. She had never looked at him so closely. Tyria stared at him obsessively. I can't resist myself if you stare at me like that. His finger, oh god, ran across her lips to pink lips slowly. You guys are gonna make me read this shit, aren't you? Was it a sign of kissing? Tyria's heart was pumping with great excitement. Lantis had relationships with many women, so it won't be difficult if he wanted to own Tyria. But Lantis didn't make further movement. He just held Tyria in his arms, tightly and gently. What? What? Tyria had expected his kissing, and she turned confused now. I guess you can accept it, only do that, don't you? He held Tyria tight. His thick masculine charm threw Tyria in a mess. Every time when Tyria took deep breath, she felt dizzy. If it lasted all the time, her heart would be crushed. She moved her body intentionally, trying not to be passive, but Lantis's heavy weight stopped her moving. When Tyria planned to say get up to Lantis, suddenly she noticed that he was asleep. Oh, you guys rejected again. Sorry. Yes, the man claimed that he sleeps less was sleeping now. Tyria's strength was consuming quickly. She couldn't wake him up now. Lantis slept so happily. Tyria peered at him as if her sight would penetrate his face. A face like it's well carved. He closed his eyes with long lashes. The beauty of his face was more than the word beautiful. Tyria put her hands on in the back of him. She moved slowly, trying not to wake him up. She really wanted to embrace him. What came from her heart was a desire. Once she thought his waist was thin, but it's quite thick. And her small hands can just held it. So she's basically holding on to his love handles. Tyria sighed, with her arms around Lantis's body. Incredibly, she felt a sense of satisfaction. Tyria had no idea of her mind. Why she wanted to hold him. She wondered why. However, she didn't know why. No, she knew why, but she refused to admit it. I like Lantis? She made up her mind to not fall in love with him. In order to make a decision, Tyria whispered, yes. When this word came out, the first time that she felt relieved. Although Lantis was still sleeping soundly, to her surprise, she liked Lantis. She burst into tears. As if it's her love for Lantis. How could she like the son of her enemy? She felt a great agony. Considering that, it's better to conceal it. As long as she didn't confess her feelings, the sense of uncertainty would never disappear. I hate you. Her word was false of her heart. I hoped you will never know my real thoughts. That's what she expected. Lantis was still sleeping. He didn't even hear this. Tyria wiped her tears with the back of her hand. Then she was sleepy. Maybe it's due to her crying. Surrounded by Lantis' fragrance, Tyria felt a stronger sleepiness. Well, you guys, next time they end up in bed together, I don't think he's just falling asleep. They save these things for the very end. We're getting there. Then no one knew how long had passed. When Tyria woke up, Lantis had left. Then she got up to the living room. There's a note left on the big table, clearly. It seemed that Lantis had left for Palace. The note said, I've left the carriage in attendance with you. Come to Palace. I know, I'm trying. Tyria took a look at her parents and made sure they were okay, then returned to Palace. On arriving at the palace, she went to the workplace. She came across a senior on the way. Good morning, Tyria. Good morning, Rosette. At the sight of her, the senior told her secretly. Today the queen went to the Lantises very angrily, and what happened? What happened? She probably knew that. Maybe the guards that Lantis regained consciousness, then reported that to the queen. It's all my fault. Do you know where are they, the queen and Prince Lantis? Perhaps they are in her room. Then Tyria left. Tyria walked to the door of her house and knocked. Come in, please. When hearing the queen's voice, she swallowed. Controlling her nervousness, she walked into the house. Then she saw them staring at each other. Lantis watched Tyria going in. He was surprised to pop his eyes. They do, a little bit. Is that you, the one deceived Lantis? Since she used this word, Tyria wondered what she deceived. And she never expected to be questioned like this when stepping into the house. She doesn't deceive me. I am not asking you, the queen said in a sharp voice. The atmosphere turned more dignified. I told him my parents were imprisoned by the queen. Tyria, Lantis said out loud. Apparently he didn't want her to say something like that. Hearing what Tyria says, the queen became grave quickly. You are the daughter of Lena. It seemed that she didn't know this before, said the queen in surprise. I hate you. You did that to my father and mother. Yeah, you're supposed to resent me. Strangely, the queen acted like she agreed with Tyria. Why did you frame them up as rebellion and put them in prison? Tyria stared at her directly, asked. You said you hated me. Does that mean you agree with me? Although she said elegantly, the smile on her face looked cold and grim. 20 years ago, the woman that the king favored should be me. Somehow, it was ruined by a woman named Lena. She put her sad expression, act like she was unwilling to talk about it. It seemed that the queen had her own reasons. So after a few years when she gave birth, I said, the man protecting Lena and her daughter, named Ivan, should be in prison. What the queen said and did shouldn't make her as a model for the people to follow. Generally speaking, no matter what happened, she was not supposed to lose her pride as a queen. No matter that she couldn't disturb her. However, now the queen was just a woman crazed with jealousy. Tyria, I should arrest you for losing Rena and Ivan, as well as deceiving Lantis. The queen said, clapping her hands. 2 guards burst into the house. She didn't even know when they were ordered. Arrest her, the queen said angrily. But the 2 guards stood still. They didn't do anything. What's going on? Arrest her now. Save it, Mother. What? Mother, now you don't have the right to order the soldiers and people. No words came out from her. Lantis continued. You are not deserved as the queen. What you did is just for your selfish desire. 2 guards grabbed the queen's hands. Lantis smiled gently. Lantis, you are my son. Were you going to betray your mother? What betray? I've never done that. This was the decision made by the palace. No, by the country. I had no choice but to obey. Lantis said that in a different way. That's far from his gentle expression. He must want to fulfill the prince's mission. Take my mother. No, take Jareen out. Well, that's done. The queen was taken out of the house by 2 guards. The house became quiet again. Then Tyria asked him, It's okay? After all, she is your mother. You couldn't bring your selfish desire to this seat. That's my principle. Lantis said that was very seriously. But how could he pawn her yesterday? Tyria said that, so he laughed. Yeah, I thought so. I became different when I was with you. So are you sure this won't affect this country? Tyria said jokingly, and Lantis laughed louder. Then you guide me and warn me not to step onto the wrong way. Come on, you make it like a proposal? Tyria became shy and unspoken. Lantis raised his lips as if aware of what Tyria wanted to say. You are right, I love you. Lantis reached out his hands, facing her. His hands ran across Tyria's cheeks. Then he touched her lips with fingers and moved reluctantly. He did it again. Tyria wondered what he wanted to convey in such behaviors. Don't you kiss me? Lantis became surprised when hearing this. Tyria put her hands on the mouth in haste, but it's too late. What she said had been heard clearly by Lantis. Actually, she didn't mean to tell him her feelings, but now he knew. Could I kiss you? His eyes were sparkling, and his desire was shown. Thing like that. Hopefully he didn't ask so directly. She looked down because of being shy. Her face was flushed now. Tyria's face was burning. Lantis held her chin and raises her head. He kissed her gently. Her heart was pounding. Her eyes followed Lantis's lips. Lantis moved away his, and Tyria pressed her. How does it feel? It made her embarrassed when asked her like that. It's Tyria's first kiss, and the kiss was over in a flash. Tyria could only stand here dully, simply could not in a comparison with anything. I'm not quite sure about that. Conversely, Lantis somehow heard her reply and lewdly said, once more. Then he came to Tyria. The second kiss felt quite different from the first one. Just like tasted Tyria, Lantis teased her tongue deeply. Tyria turned wide eyes to him. 2 tongues intertwined, and repeated the movement like press and retraction now and then. Sometimes Lantis would bite Tyria's tongue and swallowed her saliva. Oh! No! The saliva hadn't been swallowed, drooling towards her jaw, along with her mouth. This is... Okay, the saliva shit's gross. Her breath became harder and harder. Her mouth was blocked off in a way. What would Tyria do to improve their breath? Why don't you just breathe through your nose? When Tyria strive for breathing fresh air, Lantis finally moved his mouth away. Tyria felt a little dizzy and found it difficult to breathe. With difficulty, Tyria remained standing. But suddenly she knelt on the floor. Are you okay? Said Lantis with his hand reaching out. Although he behaved well at that time, he was the man who made Tyria become like that at present. Tyria looked at him with a glare. Can't I feel uncomfortable? Said Tyria angrily. Watching Tyria on that condition, he snickered. Don't stop breathing, and use your nose. Am I right? No, you're not right. Do not know at all. Hum hum. Tyria was very shy, and when she adjusted her breath, Lantis kissed her again. His sudden behavior made Tyria's heart beat faster. Lantis looked at Tyria and on bent knees. This time, Tyria grasped the ways of kissing with her nose, and also prolonged her kissing time. Lantis transformed the angle of his face and kiss, and devoted to kiss Tyria. Tyria's tongue matched up with Lantis's behavior unskillfully. Tyria's brain was completely blank, immersing in her first game. Then a sudden sweet mew came to them. Damn it, cat! When looked to the knees, there was a cat who wanted to climb on Lantis's leg. Mr. Stromze, is it possible that you were jealous? Separate the 2 lips, Tyria and Lantis looked down into the cat. What the fuck? You bother me in the nick of time! Oh my god. Lantis touched the head of the cat softly. It suddenly occurred to Tyria, the figure of the servants in Libby, who had been close to Lantis. And at that time, Lantis also stared at them in a soft sight and gave his hands. It is. Whoever, as long as she was female, he would fall in deep love. It is just a cat. Kept in mind, Tyria felt a pang in her heart. Why? She was not quite sure about that, but she mad as a wet hen. Okay. What's wrong with you? Lantis stared at Tyria apprehensively. Nothing serious, Tyria answered vaguely. It does. Oh, we're almost done. There's actually one really funny scene left, and I think, like, the scene they get it on with, and then we're done. The second day. When Tyria came to clean the room with Lantis, the scene inside made her stunned. Because Lantis lay in the bed, and her senpai was sitting on his body. It's rare to see they both should stay together, but why it should be in this gesture? Complicated emotions suddenly rushed to Tyria. No, Tyria, it's not what you think. It's... Glaring at Lantis, prepared to explain, Tyria was heartbroken. The feeling came again. She felt her chest ache like yesterday, and she pressed her bosom. Then heard the gunfire. The window was broken, and there were bullet holes near the bed. The bullet happened to cross the room, near the head of her senpai, and shot the floor. Are you okay? Without hesitation, Tyria ran out of the room, while senpai suddenly teared her dress. And then covered the window frame, which was full of glass fragments, with her dress and fled the room. Nimbly, Tyria was dumbfounded. I don't know what the fuck's going on, you guys. After that, Lantis went out, and hence, Tyria followed in a hurry. However, because of her unstable step, she fell down. Fortunately, it's the first floor. Tyria cleaned the dust on her clothes and chased for Lantis. Fortunately, he hasn't run for a long distance. Tyria saw him immediately. Sighed with confidence. Senpai stood in front of the Lantis, and there's another people stood opposite her. That man was Victor. There's a sniper fire in his hand. The bullet hole existed when Tyria entered the room, while the previous ones were new bullet holes. Maybe he had fired a couple of rounds. Senpai was to save Lantis, so she sat on him. Okay, so wait, hold a second. They were getting shot at, so she pushed him down in the bed to save him. So is that what happened? If the sniper's target was Lantis, to think like this, all things should be clearly. It must be here where he aimed at Lantis. But why? Tyria took a worried look at Senpai, and Lantis slowly approached the man who took the gun. Senpai was very brave. Her face had no hesitation. Just when Victor was about to lift the gun, her senpai kicked it with a higher speed. Having lost his gun, Victor took out a dagger hidden in his arms, the silver cutting edge reflecting the sunlight, and waved in the sky. When senpai retreated, a slow step made her cloths cut. Ah! Screaming in her inner body, the place where the cloth was cut was the senpai's chest. But there's not the radiant which belonged to girls. Her senpai could be defined biologically as male. Oh god. Oh shit, she's a guy. Lantis and Tyria were surprised at it and stood still. With a click of her tongue, her senpai felt anxious with Victor's behaviors. Do not wait. That's what I want to know. Do not waste my only good cloth. Her senpai screamed and smashed towards Victor. He He kneeled on the floor and pressed his abdomen. It seemed painful. Mantis came to himself and caught Victor, unknown whether he gave up or not. He down in the dumps. Why? Why do you shoot me? I admire the queen, so I cannot forgive Prince Lantis. He gave orders to arrest the queen. Anything else you haven't told me? Senpai said in an accusing mood. He kept silent instantly. Victor stopped being silent and said, 14 years later I bribed the guards regiment. Let them set fires, and tells a lie that your parents are both died. Besides, I ordered to set fire to Cresta and burned paper. Are you the prisoner? What the hell? Why? For the queen. Because I know the queen wants the prince to succeed the throne. I don't want you, with the blood of the king, to bother the queen. Clearly not. It seemed that the world of Victor was rotated in the center of the queen. Unexpectedly, his deep love towards the queen had made him destroy his daily life. The relationship between them was not common. Victor was arrested by the policeman soon. Why? Why do you dress as a girl? Heard of this question, there arose a hint of a smile on the face of Senpai. To protect Prince Lantis. Me? Heard of the dialogue, Lantis got in a word and asked. It seemed that he was the first time to know that, and appeared surprisingly. Your father requested me. He asked me to pay more attention to protect you under these unstable circumstances. The king should request her senpai in person. Who was she? Asked Teria wonderingly, while her senpai chuckled, hee hee hee. So, who am I? He said, meanwhile rolled up the tiered dress and showed Lantis. There were butterfly tattoos on his legs. Mantis kept a wide eye. You were the man ravished me before. God. It's the guy who fucking molested him when he was a kid. It came to mind when Lantis recalled the man who ever compelled herself and their looks. His feeling was thunderstruck and felt it detest. Don't put on that impression. Let us get along with each other like before. And they play it for laughs too. Given that senpai was closer to her, Lantis was fled like a strong wind, fled away. What? Looking at this warm scene and laughed strangely. This is a warm scene. What the fuck? Oh my god. I'm gonna be hoarse tomorrow. Alright, this is almost over, you guys. I swear to God. I think there's like one scene left. You should be an odd locker. When finished her jobs and went back to her room for reflex, Lantis came over here. He looked at Teria and breathed at that time. It's both of you ignore my existence and begin to chase for each other. Catch up. It seemed to be happy. Teria were a little jealous of it. Where did he go? Prince Lantis. It could hear the sound and distance of her senpai. Lantis hid Teria behind. Come on. Where does he go? Prince Lantis. As if it came into effect, and for a moment her voice went further. That guy's physical power is bottomless. Seeing this, Lantis and Teria quivered and began to smile. He must like Mr. Lantis very, very much. Don't speak anything. I hate men most, and that man is the reason why I hate men. Lantis was a straightforward man. He would speak out what he thought directly. Teria was attracted by this Lantis, but she dared not to show her heart. Because Teria considered it had missing the best chance, and even if he didn't say anything, he could understand her heart properly. But Lantis finally asked for Teria. What do you think of me? What do I think? I feel you are very brave, and I respect you. She'll almost speak out, love, without hesitation, but has no idea whether she talks something else due to nervous or not. As expected, Lantis appeared a surprised expression. Tyria mused it messed up, but she missed the chance to repeat her words. Respect? It is obvious that we kiss passionately, isn't it? He stretched his hands to hold Tyria tightly. What happened yesterday still appeared vividly. Tyria lowered her head. What should I do to make you fall in love with me? Oh god. There we go. The voice of Lantis mixed with a little depression. Already, Tyria had already fallen in love with Lantis. More than that, the brain of Tyria was full of Lantis. There's a reason why she didn't speak out. That was Lantis' head girlfriend at that time. Lantis now seemed to like Tyria, but she always worried that one day in the future he would find they are better, and then left her. Those girls who were in a relationship with you, I hope that you shall never see them again, said Tyria bravely, but she regretted it immediately. Whatever you thought, you shouldn't speak that kind of words to limit him, because it would be considered as a troublemaker. She observed the expression of Lantis carefully. Then she found that his face was beyond her expectation. He's smiling. Both surprise and excitement, a smile arose on his face. Are those your true thoughts? With his words, he hugged Tyria more tightly. Tyria nodded and kissed on her neck, sighed. I'm so delighted unexpectedly that you were jealous for me. Jealous? What does it mean? How the fuck does she not know what the word jealous means? It's the first time Tyria heard of this word, her two eyes wide open. It means hate or abhor the share of love to others from your beloved. Heard of these, Tyria was activated. I was jealous about the girls who had been dating previously. So my chest pain was from repeatedly, also because of jealous? After listening to Tyria's question, Lantis answered yes, and put his hands on Tyria's waist. Uh-oh. It has come the sound of skin friction. Skin friction? Tyria began to tremble at once. She strove for getting away from the imprisonment of Lantis, however, she was more tightly hugged. I've told you that I don't know how long I can endure and when that time. I can't wait. Oh boy, here we go. Hold on, I gotta blow my nose one more time before I do this, because I have a feeling there's gonna be some laughing. Oh, I need to breathe. Oh, okay. Oh yeah, this is it. How many people are watching this? I don't want to get in trouble for this. Hold on. Oh, just three of you guys. Okay, we're good. As he spoke, Lantis' two legs were squashed between Tyria's two legs. Oh god. Wait, crunchiness, the bed rang. Okay, so the bed red is crunchy. Lantis covered the whole body of the breathless Tyria's. Tyria was pressed in the bed like this, looked up to Lantis. Tyria stared the martial and handsome face of Lantis. Under such circumstances, it's hard to move the body. Tyria relaxed and gave up. It's my first time. I know that. Perhaps I cannot make it well. Leave it to me. It'll be alright. And you cannot treat me like other girls. Hush, be silent. Lantis laid his index fingers on her lips, and the other hand touched her chest softly. It seemed that Lantis was satisfied with its texture and massaged. For many times, Tyria was almost about to screaming. Suddenly, Lantis reached his finger into Tyria's mouth. What? He did not know what he would do. Wait, she did not know what he would do at that time. Lantis hovered Tyria's lips with his index finger. And is he sticking his fucking fingers in her mouth? Let me hear you. No, it's a pity. Tyria is shaking her heads. She has two of them, from side to side unwillingly, but Lantis' finger invaded the inside of her mouth relentless. Oh my god. At that time, Lantis' hands, which were catching her breast, took out her cloths. Dear god. Lantis stopped. and ejaculated in Teria at the bottom directly of her. They both were short of breath, gazing at each other and held tightly in their arms. Two bodies clammy with sweat interweaved, and it should be surprisingly comfortable. I can't believe you guys made me do that. Yeah. Oh, fuck. Okay. Hey, we're back at his hideout. His secret base. Wildflowers swung in the wind. Two children chased each other and ran into the house. Muddy hands and shoes made the floor full of soil. Hey, wash your hands and feet. Teria caught their necks and let them not move. They too swayed their feet and answered, okay, and then walked to the toilet. Teria sighed and began to hang cloths out. After that, many years later, Teria birthed two children. 6-year-old Hardis and Freya, the twin, has inherited their father's Lantis's neat appearance. Found the place similar to Lantis, Teria would smile. A few hours later, when she was watching the face of them who were an afternoon nap, the doorbell rang. In order not to wake them, Teria walked to the hallway silently. I'm back. Where are the two guys? Sleeping right now. Back from the palace, Lantis kissed Teria on the cheek. Lantis entered the room, looked at their sleep face as if he was very happy. After a while, he saw the children. Suddenly, he hugged Teria. And then tried to kiss Teria for many times. Even if had been a father, the hot eye towards Teria had no change. Teria's body was beginning to burn hot. They're in front of the fucking kids! Teria, I want... Oh my god. Okay, we're done. Thank god. I'm going to be really hoarse and sore tomorrow. I read for 3 fucking hours. Oh, shit. So that's Crimson Memories. I'm downloading the shit off of Twitch and then I'm deleting the stream. Because I don't want to get dinged for this shit. So... Alright, so I don't know if I'm going to be here on Thursday. Depends on if I have to get... No, there is no sequel. They do have 2 other routes, but I ain't streaming those. It's like, basically, you can romance 2 other guys. I don't know. This is probably one of the stupidest stories I've ever read in a visual novel. Even if you cleaned up all of the translation, it'd still be really stupid. So. Oh.